Okay, let's unpack this. Have you ever felt like there's, an invisible game being played around you? That some people just seem to navigate the world effortlessly, getting exactly what they want, while others stumble no matter how hard they try? It's almost as if they know a secret playbook, maybe a hidden set of rules the rest of us haven't quite figured out.
What's truly fascinating here is that for centuries, across diverse cultures and historical periods, people have observed these consistent patterns of human behavior that lead to power or, conversely, to ruin. We're talking about a kind of civilized war that subtly plays out in almost every interaction, from the workplace, definitely, to social circles.
Right. So today we're diving into a pretty captivating collection of sources centered on Robert Greene's, hugely influential work, The 48 Laws of Power. Our mission here is to extract the most important nuggets, the key takeaways, from its introduction and the first 24 laws. We want to give you a kind of shortcut to understanding the underlying mechanics of influence, control, and, ultimately, how people gain and maintain power.
Exactly. And these laws, they aren't really new inventions. They distill thousands of years of human wisdom, lessons drawn from ancient China, the courts of Renaissance Italy, Napoleon's battlefields, even the subtle manipulations of con artists. They propose that certain actions almost invariably increase one's power and effectiveness, while others, they diminish it. So we'll explore not just what these laws are, but the deeper psychological why behind them, how they've been applied throughout history, and, the surprising aha moments they reveal about human nature itself.
So what does this all mean for you listening in? Whether you're navigating a complex meeting, trying to understand the motivations behind historical figures, or maybe you're just insanely curious about the hidden currents of human behavior, this deep dive should equip you to spot the velvet glove and the iron hand in play, both in others and maybe even within yourself. It's about seeing the world with a new, perhaps more discerning eye.
The Foundation of Power, an Amoral Game, Introduction.
Okay, so Greene suggests that despite our modern ideals, decency, fairness, our world in many ways still mirrors the old aristocratic courts. What does that actually mean? And why is this historical lens, this almost Machiavellian perspective, so crucial for understanding power dynamics today?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, it's really about peeling back the layers, right? Underneath the veneer of politeness, the social conventions, the corporate structures, fundamental human emotions like greed, envy, lust, hatred, they still simmer. Niccolo Machiavelli, the great Renaissance diplomat, he famously declared, "Any man who tries to be good all the time is bound to come to ruin among the great number who are not good." Now, this isn't an endorsement of malice, obviously, but it's a stark observation. The underlying game is timeless. Outwardly, you might conform to niceties, you have to, but inwardly, you learn prudence, strategy. Napoleon's advice, you mentioned the velvet glove. Place your iron hand inside a velvet glove, it perfectly captures this duality. It's a recognition that even in our seemingly civilized society, there's this constant, often hidden struggle for advantage. It's a civilized war, like we said, where the weapons are often psychological, not physical.
And there's a really strong warning in the introduction about people who vocally claim to opt out of these power games, people who present themselves as morally superior. Why should we be particularly wary of them? That feels a bit counterintuitive if they're advocating for something seemingly good.
That's a critical question, yeah. If, as Greene argues, everyone fundamentally hungers for power, and most actions are, on some level, aimed at gaining or maintaining it, then those who really flaunt their moral qualities or their piety might simply be, throwing dust in our eyes. The philosophy underpinning this is that genuine powerlessness, without any self-interest, probably wouldn't publicize its weakness. Instead, displaying weakness or a lack of ambition can actually be a highly effective, very subtle and deceptive power strategy. We'll see more of this when we get to Law 22, the surrender tactic, where apparent weakness is transformed into strength. Someone might display their lack of power as a moral virtue, but their real aim might be to gain sympathy or trust or respect, which are all potent forms of influence, right? Even perfect honesty, which seems virtuous, can be a power play. It might be designed to persuade others of one's noble character, but in practice, Greene points out, it can often insult and hurt people. These supposed non-players are often highly skilled at indirect manipulation, maybe even unconsciously. And they really resent anyone publicizing the very tactics they employ daily. Their moral superiority acts as a kind of sophisticated smokescreen.
Okay, so if this is a game, and we need to be wary of those who claim not to play, the introduction highlights that mastering power requires certain skills that don't come naturally to most of us. Let's dig into those crucial foundations mentioned.
Indeed. The most important skill, really the bedrock of all the others, is mastering your emotions. An emotional response, especially anger, is identified as the single greatest barrier to power. Why? Because it clouds reason. It clouds clarity. Greene points out that anger has this destructive ripple effect. It makes situations less controllable, and it often heightens an enemy's resolve. If your goal is actually to dismantle an opponent, feigning friendliness or indifference is far more effective than overt anger, which just telegraphs your intentions and kind of empowers them. And it's not just anger. Even seemingly positive emotions like love and affection can be destructive, blinding you to the often self-serving interests of those you least suspect of playing a power game. The key isn't to repress emotions entirely or, avoid feeling them. It's about controlling their expression. And most importantly, preventing them from influencing your strategies or plans in any way. It's about seeing the chessboard clearly without that haze of emotion.
So it's really about separating feelings from actions.
Right.
Cold, calculated strategy. What else is essential?
Precisely. Another crucial skill is the ability to distance yourself from the present moment and think objectively about the past and the future. Greene uses the analogy of the Roman deity Janus, who had two faces. One face looks to the future. This is about having no days on alert, constantly imagining problems, calculating every possible permutation and pitfall instead of just dreaming of happy endings. The further you can see and the more steps ahead you plan, the more powerful and prepared you become. The other face looks to the past. Not for holding grudges, because that would only curb your power and cloud your reason, but to learn. Learn from others' experiences as well as your own. This continuous self-education from history and from reflecting on your own triumphs and mistakes is absolutely vital for power.
That makes profound sense. Learning from history, meticulously planning ahead. And what about the idea of patience? How does that factor into this complex game?
Patience is a crucial shield in the game of power. If deception is considered, let's say, the most potent weapon in your arsenal, then patience in all things protects against making what Greene calls moronic blunders. It's a learned skill, definitely not an innate one. It's described as the supreme virtue of the gods, who have nothing but time. It allows you to let situations unfold naturally, to wait for the opportune moment. Greene says something like, everything good will happen, the grass will grow again if you give it time and see several steps into the future. Impatience, on the other hand, just makes you appear weak, maybe eager, definitely prone to mistakes. It's a principal impediment to power. It's not natural. It requires immense self-control.
And finally, there's this concept that immediately jumps out as potentially controversial. The idea of amorality. This sounds quite stark. Does Greene really suggest abandoning all moral considerations?
Well, the book asserts that power is fundamentally amoral. It's a challenging concept, certainly. But the argument is that you must see circumstances as they are, not through the lens of good or evil. In this game, you don't judge your opponents by their stated intentions, but solely by the effect of their actions. You measure their strategy and power by what you can visibly observe and feel, by the concrete results. People often cover up their actions with justifications of goodness, but a wise player learns to inwardly disregard these and just focus on the visible outcomes. Greene asks, rhetorically, what does it matter if another player intended good things if the effects of his action lead to so much ruin and confusion? It's about recognizing that intentions can often cloud judgment and deceive. The focus is squarely on the concrete results, regardless of the ethical framework used to justify them. It's a purely pragmatic viewpoint.
That's an incredibly stark, almost chilling way of looking at human interaction, focusing solely on results. And how does this lead to what Greene calls the indirect route to power?
Mastering indirection is presented as the ultimate goal, really. Disguising your cunning like a billiard ball that caroms multiple times before hitting its target. It means your moves are planned and developed in the least obvious way, makes them difficult to trace back to you. This approach allows you to thrive in the modern court, appearing as a paragon of decency or kindness or even powerlessness, while simultaneously being a consummate manipulator. The true power of indirection is that you'll be able to make people bend to your will without them ever realizing what you've done. And if they don't realize what you've done, they'll neither resent nor resist you. This entire handbook, the 48 Laws of Power, is essentially presented as a guide to these arts of indirection, drawing on the wisdom of strategists, statesmen, courtiers, seducers, con artists, across thousands of years of human history.
The laws of the game practical applications. Laws 1 to 24.
So if power truly is this subtle, amoral game where indirection and emotional mastery are key, where do we even begin to apply these insights? It seems the very first principle lays down a foundational rule for navigating any hierarchy, especially with superiors. Law 1. Never outshine the master. That sounds almost counterintuitive in a world that talks about meritocracy, doesn't it? Why is it so critical to never outshine those above you?
It's more than just inspiring fear. It taps into something deeper, maybe a primal territorial response. Masters often conflate their self-worth with their position and their perceived superiority. When you shine too brightly, you inadvertently challenge their identity, not just their authority. This can trigger a really deep-seated insecurity, making them feel threatened enough to, well, remove you, rather than secure enough to keep you close. The core idea is to always make your superiors feel comfortably superior. And you have to do this subtly. Consider Galileo, a brilliant scientist, and his patrons, the Medicis. He didn't just present his scientific discoveries directly, like, here's what I found. Instead, he gave them infinitely more glory by linking their name to cosmic forces, literally aligning them with the stars through his work. He made them appear to shine brilliantly among the courts of Italy, not himself. He didn't challenge their intellectual authority or make them feel inferior in any way. And that's a subtle yet powerful form of flattery. Masters, Greene observes, care deeply about their name and glory, often more than objective truth itself.
That makes perfect sense. But what if you're genuinely talented, really good at what you do? Is there a danger in being too indispensable or maybe taking too much credit?
Absolutely. The book gives the example of Senno Rikyu, Emperor Hideyoshi's favorite tea master in Japan, late 16th century. Rikyu was highly honored, a trusted advisor, had his own palace apartment. He seemed indispensable. Yet in 1591, Hideyoshi suddenly had him arrested and sentenced to death, which led Rikyu to take his own life. The cause: likely an unforgivable miscalculation of his own importance. He dared to outshine the emperor in subtle ways, perhaps becoming too popular or too influential. The lesson is never take your favored position for granted. Don't let favors go to your head. Instead, you can discreetly flatter, maybe act a bit naive, even commit harmless, minor mistakes that give you a chance to ask for your master's help or advice. Masters often adore such requests, It allows them to bestow the gifts of their experience and reinforces their superiority. So by letting others outshine you, you paradoxically remain in control, instead of becoming a victim of their insecurity.
So it's a very delicate dance. Is there ever a time when it's strategically wise to actually break this rule? To intentionally outshine?
Well, the reversal suggests that if your superior is clearly a falling star, maybe visibly weak, on their way out, then there's nothing really to fear from outshining them. In such cases, you might even discreetly hasten their downfall by conspicuously outdoing them at key moments. This isn't about being merciful. As Greene notes, your master likely wasn't merciful in their own climb to power. However, if your master is firm, secure in their position, yet you know yourself to be more capable, patience is key. Power eventually fades. You can simply outlast and someday outshine them when their time has passed.
Okay, so the first law gives us a clear strategy for managing superiors. But what about those closest to us? The people we naturally trust. Law 2 offers a surprisingly cynical, yet maybe pragmatic take. Never put too much trust in friends. Learn how to use enemies. That feels pretty brutal, doesn't it? Why would that be the case?
It does feel brutal, yet the book presents some compelling, if harsh, evidence. Friends, Greene posits, will betray you more quickly because they're easily aroused to envy, especially if you advance beyond them. They can also become spoiled, even tyrannical, due to your kindness, feeling a sense of entitlement. A powerful historical example is Michael III of the Byzantine Empire and his best friend Basilius. Michael elevated Basilius, a former stable boy with zero government experience, to his chief counselor, showered him with favors, money, even his own mistress. However, Basilius's ambition just spiraled. He grew avaricious, orchestrated a murder, and ultimately betrayed and assassinated his benefactor, Michael. The critical takeaway isn't just the gruesome details, but how proximity and unchecked generosity can breed resentment and entitlement in those you deem allies, leading to a much more dangerous betrayal than from an overt enemy. Gratitude, the book reminds us, is often forgotten, quickly replaced by a sense of what one deserves.
That's a stark lesson. So if friends are dangerous, what about enemies? How can they possibly be useful?
Well, a former enemy, paradoxically, can sometimes be more loyal because they have more to prove to you. They have less to be envious of in the first place, right? Their starting point with you is one of less privilege. Emperor Sung in China, instead of locking up his defeated enemy Qian Shu, he honored him. And he suddenly revealed that he knew of Shu's continued conspiracies but chose to spare him. This unexpected generosity won Shu over completely, making him a fiercely loyal vassal. There's a Chinese proverb comparing friends to the jaws and teeth of a dangerous animal, highlighting this inherent risk. Furthermore, Greene suggests that the very presence of an enemy sharpens your wits, keeps you focused, alert, prevents complacency. Henry Kissinger, for instance, apparently made a policy of working with those who disagreed with him. He even charmed alleged kidnappers into becoming friends, finding he often got along better with enemies than friends. Mao Zedong apparently used the Japanese invasion as perfect training for his communist army, realizing that without conflict they'd grow rusty and complacent. So sometimes it's better to use enemies as enemies, rather than trying to transform them, just for the motivation and strategic focus they provide.
Okay, Law 3. Conceal your intentions. This suggests keeping people entirely in the dark about your true purpose. How does that help in this game of power?
Well, think about it. If people have absolutely no clue what you're really up to, they can't prepare a defense, they can't anticipate your moves to counter them, the book provides a kind of two-part approach here. First, use decoyed objects of desire and red herrings. If there's even the slightest suspicion about your true aims, Greene says all is lost. Ninon de l'Enclos, a 17th century French courtesan, an expert in seduction. She advised the Marquis de Sévigné to feign indifference, then jealousy, then unpredictability, to utterly confuse the countess he desired. When he just blurted out his true love prematurely, the spell was broken. Why? Because his intentions became clear and predictable. Announcing your intentions directly allows targets to prepare a defense, or worse, they just lose interest because the challenge, the mystery, is gone.
So never show your hand until the very last moment. Keep them guessing.
Exactly. Otto von Bismarck, for example. He astonished the Prussian parliament by publicly arguing against war with Austria. This was despite his long-held secret desire for German unification through war. This master stroke of deception fooled the entire country, leading the king to appoint him minister, and from that position he later skillfully initiated and won the war he always wanted. He achieved his true goal by feigning support for the exact opposite. The Duke of Marlborough, head of the English army, did something similar. He captured a key French fort, then, to everyone's confusion, allowed the French to recapture and destroy it. Why? It cleared a vital thoroughfare for his advance into France. His true intention was hidden behind a seemingly obvious capture and subsequent loss.
Fascinating. And the second part of this law, how else do you conceal?
The second part is to use smoke screens to disguise your actions. The best deceivers often use a bland, inconspicuous front that draws absolutely no attention, blends right in. Yellow Kid Hale, a notorious con artist, pulled off a huge scam by feigning financial distress and setting up a fake fixed fight, conning a man out of a lot of money. The familiar setup of a distressed con artist was the smokescreen for a much deeper deception. Haile Selassie I, the Ethiopian emperor, famously lured a defiant warlord, Balcha, to a banquet. He feigned obsequiousness, allowed Balcha to bring his armed guard, made Balcha feel totally in control. Meanwhile, Selassie quietly disarmed Balcha's entire army 3 miles away, leading to Balcha's humiliating surrender. These examples show how the familiar, the expected, can cunningly hide the true underlying intentions. Even noble gestures can be smokescreens, like Joseph Duveen helping create the National Gallery of Art, which, yes, benefited the public, but also allowed his wealthy clients to avoid taxes and clear wall space for new purchases while appearing as grand public benefactors.
So it's about being utterly unreadable. But what if you're already known as someone who's, deceptive or cunning? Can you still use this law?
Good point. The reversal suggests that if you have an established reputation for deception, playing naive will just make you seem like a hypocrite. It won't work. In those specific cases, it might be better to own up to it. Appear as an honest rogue, or maybe even a repentant one like P.T. Barnum did. Barnum famously revealed his deceptions in an autobiography. This frankness can paradoxically maintain your ability to deceive because people expect it, they're amused by it, or they think you've reformed. Count Victor Lustig, another master swindler, sensed a marked suspicion when he was trying to sell the Eiffel Tower as scrap metal. Seriously, instead of feigning honesty, he subtly asked for a bribe. This made him seem like a real corrupt official, which actually disarmed the mark's suspicion and sealed the deal. Talleyrand, too, a master liar, preserved his ability to deceive by openly embracing his reputation for dishonesty, made it impossible to tell his real deceptions from his fake ones.
It strikes me that Law 4, always say less than necessary, feels universally applicable, from a boardroom to just a casual conversation. What's the hidden power in restraint? Why does silence often speak louder than words?
The hidden power lies in control, definitely, and also the creation of an aura. When you speak less, you appear more profound, more mysterious, maybe even intimidating, and you absolutely maintain control over the conversation in your own image. The more you say, The more calm you appear, and the more likely you are to say something foolish or dangerous or irreversible. Coriolanus, the legendary Roman military hero, he learned this the hard way when he entered politics. His speeches were apparently arrogant, boastful, insulting. They just dissolved the grandeur of his military reputation. The more he spoke, the less powerful and majestic he seemed, ultimately led to his banishment. He came across as an insecure braggart rather than a legend, just because he couldn't control his tongue.
So talking too much just cheapens you, makes you seem less substantial.
It absolutely does. Andy Warhol, the artist, he understood this perfectly. He realized you actually have more power when you shut up. He'd use vague, ambiguous phrases in interviews, or sometimes just stay silent. This forced others to interpret his work, his persona, which in turn significantly increased its value and mystique. He rarely talked about his work, letting others do the interpreting and theorizing. Contrast that with Kondraty Ryleyev, a Russian rebel leader. After surviving a botched execution because the rope broke, he foolishly scoffed, "You see, in Russia, they don't know how to do anything properly, not even how to make rope." This sarcastic, prideful remark led to him being immediately rehanged. Once words are out, you can never take them back. Greene warns specifically, be particularly careful with sarcasm. The momentary satisfaction you gain with your biting words will be outweighed by the price you pay.
Law 5. So much depends on reputation. Guard it with your life. Reputation is often seen as everything, especially in the public eye. How do these laws elaborate on not just having a reputation, but actively protecting and leveraging it?
Reputation is presented as the absolute cornerstone of power. It can intimidate, it can win battles on its own, often without even engaging in direct conflict. The book uses the really powerful example of Chuko Yang, known as the sleeping dragon of ancient China. He had cultivated this legendary reputation over years as the cleverest, most cunning strategist in the land. So when he unexpectedly found his city completely unguarded, facing a vast, superior enemy army, he didn't panic. Instead, he just sat calmly on the city wall, strumming his lute, an image of absolute nonchalance. His reputation was so fearsome that the enemy general, Sima Yi, assumed it had to be an elaborate trap and just retreated without firing a single arrow. This shows how a well-maintained reputation, built over years of cunning and successful deception, can be more powerful than any weapon or visible defense. It intimidates, and often that's enough.
So it's about establishing an almost mythical image. But what if your reputation gets attacked, or if you're trying to build one from scratch?
Well, P.T. Barnum, the quintessential showman, he learned early on that all we need to ensure success is notoriety. He initially suffered a mob attack after his boss spread a false rumor he was a murderer, but the incident ironically filled the circus with curious spectators. Later, he deliberately courted controversy, like advertising Joyce Heth as a 161-year-old automaton, just to generate attention. He welcomed negative press, even wrote anonymous attacks on his own work, because any attention, positive or negative, was the main ingredient of his success. He understood that reputation is a treasure to be carefully collected and hoarded, and that any notoriety served his purpose. A strong reputation, like Henry Kissinger's for ironing out differences, could make major diplomatic feats seem like a fait accompli the moment he got involved. This law is about making your reputation simple, based on one sterling, easily recognizable quality, efficiency, ruthlessness, seductiveness, whatever it is. But you have to protect it fiercely. Never appear desperate in self-defense, as that reveals insecurity. Attacking an enemy's reputation, especially if you have less power, is also potent, because they have more to lose.
Okay, Law 6. Court attention at all cost. Building on reputation, this law pushes for constant visibility. How far should one really go to attract notice in today's world, which is just saturated with information?
The worst fate for anyone seeking power, according to this framework, is to be ignored. It's like a form of death in the public sphere. As we discussed with Barnum, he embraced all kinds of attention, even negative, to create crowds and buzz. Thomas Edison, for instance. Brilliant inventor, yes, but also brilliant at public relations. He used visually dazzling experiments, talked about fantastic future inventions, robots, machines to photograph, fought things he had no immediate intention of pursuing. Why? Simply to keep the public talking about him and to constantly outshine his rival, Nikola Tesla, who was arguably more brilliant but much less known, less adept at self-promotion. Edison even notoriously refused to share a Nobel Prize with Tesla just to deny him the attention.
Wow. So it's about consistently creating a stir, always staying relevant no matter what.
Yes, and adapting your methods. Look at Pablo Picasso. He never allowed his name to be tied to just one style. He deliberately upset the public with new, sometimes ugly and disturbing series of paintings. Why? To keep viewers from growing too familiar with his work, from feeling superior because they could predict him, This constant reinvention gained immense respect and tightened his hold on public attention. Mata Hari, the famous dancer in Maybe Spy, she cultivated an aura of mystery by constantly changing her origins, her stories, kept the public perpetually curious, wanting more. Her mystery, not necessarily her beauty or dance skill alone, made her famous and wealthy. She understood that enigma is a powerful magnet for attention.
And how can unpredictability contribute to courting attention, perhaps in a more terrifying way?
Well, the creation of enigma, deliberate unpredictability, it can be a powerful draw, yes. And it can even strike terror. Hannibal, the Carthaginian general, remember him. When trapped in a valley, he created this bizarre, inexplicable scene, attached burning twigs to oxen's horns, caused them to stampede, emit strange noises in the dark. This puzzle terrified the Roman sentries. Unable to explain what they were seeing, they fled, allowing Hannibal to escape. It's about doing something that cannot be easily explained or categorized. It unsettles your opponent, makes your forces seem larger, more cunning, more terrifying than they might actually be.
So when should you not seek attention? Is there a point where it becomes counterproductive?
Right. The reversal suggests that once you've gained a certain secure level of power and influence, there are definitely times when discretion, even retreating to the shadows, are better strategies. Never appear overly greedy for attention. It signals insecurity, can make you seem desperate. In the presence of a secure superior, for instance, it's probably wise to bow and retreat to the shadows rather than compete for the spotlight. Lola Montez learned that the hard way after her dramatic fall from King Ludwig's favor. Her excessive political dabbling and attention-seeking directly challenged the king's authority. This law really only applies after you've established your presence. Leave too early and you're simply forgotten. You have to build the stage before you can make a dramatic exit.
Okay, Law 7. Get others to do the work for you, but always take the credit. This one feels particularly, cutthroat, but undeniably practical in some ways. What's the core idea here, and does it come with hidden costs?
The essence is to shrewdly utilize the wisdom, the knowledge, the efforts of others to advance your own cause. It saves immense time and energy, obviously. And simultaneously, it can create this godlike aura of efficiency and speed around yourself. The book provides the unfortunate example of Nikola Tesla again. Brilliant inventor, yes. He significantly improved Edison's dynamos, only for Edison to renege on a $50,000 promise, famously saying, "Tesla, you don't understand our American humor." Later, George Westinghouse secured Tesla's crucial AC system patents, but then cunningly divested him of the royalties and ultimately much of the credit. In essence, Tesla did the groundbreaking work, but others took the credit and the wealth. It illustrates that credit for an invention can sometimes be far more important and definitely more lucrative than the invention itself. So it's about being the vulture, not the hunter. That sounds incredibly pragmatic, but also, quite ruthless. Is there a long-term cost to consistently vulturing others' work? Does it eventually catch up to you, or does the book suggest this is sustainable? Greene suggests it's entirely sustainable if you have a solid power base. And the law actually encourages becoming a vulture yourself once your position is secure. Vasco Núñez de Balboa, he discovered compelling evidence of the Incan Empire's riches. But his soldier, Francisco Pizarro, later seized its wealth after helping to get Balboa executed for treason. Balboa didn't understand, perhaps, that half the game was keeping his discovery quiet and watching those around him, especially those he trusted. This principle also extends to using the past. Standing on the shoulders of giants like Isaac Newton, who famously built on earlier scientists' achievements, or Shakespeare, who borrowed plots and dialogue liberally from existing works. Today's politicians using speechwriters. Perfect modern example. It's about being a clever borrower and appearing as an oracle, gaining a reputation for brilliance by the sweat of another's brow.
And when would you not take all the credit? Does that ever happen? When is it smarter to share?
Right, the reversal is key here. It states that if your power isn't firmly established, or if you're in a subordinate position, taking all the credit can backfire significantly. It can make you appear to be pushing people out of the limelight, inviting accusations of deception or insecurity from your peers and superiors. To be a brilliant exploiter of talent, your position must be unshakable first. Henry Kissinger, for instance, he adeptly allowed President Nixon to take the lion's share of credit for the historic China visit. He knew the truth of his own indispensable role would emerge later, so he preserved his standing and avoided Nixon's potential resentment. He skillfully took credit from those below him while graciously giving credit to those above. It illustrates the expert way to play this nuanced game.
Law 8. Make other people come to you. Use bait if necessary. This sounds like a master strategist's chess move. How do you actually get others to come to you rather than constantly chasing them?
The essence of power, in this context, is keeping the initiative. forcing others to react to your moves rather than you reacting to theirs. Talleyrand, the master diplomat, provides a brilliant example. When European powers were debating what to do with Napoleon after his first exile, Talleyrand quietly maneuvered behind the scenes. He even sent visitors to Elba to whisper promises of renewed glory, effectively baiting Napoleon into escaping and returning to France. Napoleon, being impetuous, consumed by his own desire for glory, fell right into the trap. Talleyrand knew France was weakened, knew Napoleon's return would inevitably lead to his final downfall at Waterloo. He saved France from further plague by letting Napoleon act as an agent of his own destruction, all while Talleyrand merely observed.
So it's about setting a trap they can't resist, playing on their desires or weaknesses.
Indeed. Japanese Marshal Togo Hihachiro, facing a numerically stronger Russian navy, used false intelligence to bait the Russians into this grueling 6,000-mile journey around Africa. They arrived exhausted, on combat alert, while the Japanese were rested and waiting on their chosen battleground. This demonstrates that making the opponent come to you exhausts them, puts them at a disadvantage, forces them to operate on your chosen territory, fundamentally puts them on the defensive. Daniel Drew, a robber baron, would apparently accidentally drop fake stock tips near Wall Street. Eager club members would pounce, unwittingly playing right into his scheme. Even pickpockets sometimes strategically place "Beware of pickpocket" signs. Why? To make people reflexively check their wallets, revealing their location. The key is to play on people's natural tendency to react, especially to temptation or provocation, while you remain calm and in control, letting them exhaust themselves coming to you.
Law 9. Win through your actions, never through argument. This law suggests that arguing is almost always a losing battle. Why are actions so much more persuasive than words, especially when dealing with powerful people?
Well, words are cheap, right? And in the heat of argument, people will say anything to support their cause. They often dig in their heels just out of pride. Arguing with a superior, especially publicly, it impugns their intelligence, their authority. And since everyone inherently believes they are right, logical reasoning often just falls on deaf ears. It becomes irrelevant. Greene shares the story of this brilliant military engineer who argued endlessly with his consul, Mucianus, about the correct mass size for a battering ram. He insisted on his expertise, his logical diagrams. Mucianus, angered by the impudence, the direct challenge to his authority, had him flogged to death. His arguments, however correct they might have been, were irrelevant. He offended power. He didn't understand that words are never neutral in this game. They're either a bridge or barrier.
Yikes. So, how do you persuade without arguing, without resorting to direct confrontation?
You demonstrate. You show, don't tell. When the enormous marble block intended for Michelangelo's David was considered ruined, he didn't argue with Mayor Soderini about how to fix it. He just worked on it. And when Soderini worried the nose was too large, Michelangelo simply tapped some dust from his chisel, but didn't actually change it. Soderini, seeing the dust fall, declared it perfect. Problem solved. No argument needed. So Christopher Wren, the architect, faced a mayor who insisted on extra support for a town hall. Wren added 2 entirely unnecessary stone columns to the design. They served no structural purpose, but they satisfied the mayor's insecurity without any argument. Even Nikita Khrushchev used a chilling demonstration, casually flicking a dead fly at a meeting, to convey his terrifying power. A powerful, unspoken threat. Henry Kissinger used a visit to Masada to symbolically warn Israelis of mass suicide. A powerful, unspoken message that moved them to action more than any diplomatic argument could have. The truth is generally seen, rarely heard, Greene states. It's about the visual, the demonstrated reality.
That's fascinating, using actions as a form of silent persuasion. But when can verbal argument actually be useful then? Is there any time for it?
Yes, the reversal here is crucial. Verbal argument has one vital use, according to Greene, to distract and cover your tracks when practicing deception or when you've been caught in a lie. Con artist Count Victor Lustig, when caught by a sheriff he'd conned, argued fiercely, even emotionally, loudly, to distract from his guilt, throw the sheriff off balance. The more emotional and certain you appear in your arguments, the less likely it seems you are lying. It's a technique that has saved many a con artist by making the other person believe they are seeing the real McCoy, a genuine person, genuinely upset. It shifts focus from your actions to your words.
Law 10. Infection. Avoid the unhappy and unlucky. This is a really stark warning about people's emotional states. Is misery really contagious like a disease, as the law suggests?
The book emphatically states that emotional states are as infectious as diseases, and that quite dramatically, you can die from someone else's misery. Lola Montez, the 19th century courtesan, she notoriously drew misfortune onto almost everyone she associated with. Her lovers, like Alexandre du Jourier, who died in a duel, or King Ludwig of Bavaria, who was forced to abdicate, or later husbands who fell into poverty or depression. They were all inexorably sucked into the maelstrom of her inherent instability and, well, bad luck. She radiated instability, and her problems were apparently too deep to be helped. Anyone who identified with them was sort of lost. The danger is that these infecting characters often draw disaster on themselves, and they will draw it on you through simple proximity.
That's a powerful and frankly disturbing idea that bad luck or unhappiness is a transferable commodity. Why does Greene believe this happens, and how do you spot these infectors?
These infecting characters, as Greene calls them, radiate instability. They often draw disaster on themselves through a combination of poor choices, maybe negative outlooks, or sometimes genuine misfortune. But the effect is the same. They will inevitably draw it on you. They might present themselves as innocent victims, making it difficult at first to see their miseries as self-inflicted or maybe unavoidable. The danger is you'll waste precious time and energy trying to help them, or worse, you'll suffer guilt by association and get dragged down by their quarrels, their misfortunes, their eventual ruin. The warning is crystal clear. Do not take pity. Do not enmesh yourself in trying to help. Instead, flee the infector's presence or suffer the inevitable consequences. Greene offers no reversal for this law, emphasizing its universal application and the severe, unavoidable danger of such associations. It's presented as a purely defensive self-preservation strategy.
Okay, Law 11. Learn to keep people dependent on you. To be truly independent, you have to make others depend on you. That seems incredibly counterintuitive to our modern ideas of self-sufficiency.
It is, isn't it? But it's about maintaining your freedom through indispensability. The more you are relied on, the more freedom and power you inherently have. The unfortunate example of a mercenary soldier who saved Siena, only to be killed and worshipped as a saint shortly after because he was no longer needed. It highlights the grave danger of being dispensable. He had outlived his usefulness once the city was safe. They saw no need to keep him alive as a potential future threat or burden. True power, in this view, isn't about isolation. It's about becoming the vital hub others revolve around.
So how do you actually become indispensable without it being too obvious?
You cultivate a unique talent or skill that cannot be easily replaced. Or you entrench yourself in so many systems that removing you would cause chaos. Otto von Bismarck, he made Prussian kings dependent on his iron of blood tactics to keep enemies at bay. That secured his power despite their personal dislike for him. He specifically worked on King Frederick's insecurity, and later King William's, making them rely on his strong-arm, decisive methods. Louis VIII's astrologer famously secured his protection by claiming he would die exactly 3 days before the king, made Louis completely dependent on his continued existence for his own perceived longevity. Harry Cohn, a film executive, kept screenwriter Lawson despite personal dislike and negative publicity. Why? Because Lawson was Humphrey Bogart's preferred writer, and Bogart was the studio's biggest star, a perfect chain of dependence. Henry Kissinger survived numerous bloodlettings in the Nixon White House by entrenching himself in so many political structures and negotiations that removing him would have caused unbearable chaos.
So if I'm listening to this, I might think, okay, I need to make myself indispensable at work. But does that mean you become loved or just necessary? Is there a difference, and which is more powerful according to this law?
That's an excellent distinction, and Greene is very clear. It's better to be feared as indispensable than merely loved. As Machiavelli famously noted, it's safer to be feared than loved. Your masters or colleagues might resent you, they might fear you, but fear is a controllable emotion. Love is capricious, fickle. Dependence, especially dependence born out of fear of the negative consequences of losing you, provides far more security than dependence based purely on affection. The image used is vines with many thorns. If you are entwined around the source of power with many thorns, you are difficult and costly to cut away. That makes you more secure than any amount of affection could.
What's the potential downside or maybe the overreach of this strategy?
The reversal warns that attempting complete independence, like a J.P. Morgan or a John D. Rockefeller who sought total monopolies, can paradoxically lead to isolation. It can breed strong resentment, causing enemies to bond together against you. Monopolies can even destroy themselves from internal pressure, as the drive for complete control is often ruinous and fruitless. The text advises aiming for a position of mutual dependence, where the master is, in essence, a slave, because they depend on you. This creates a more stable, though still power-oriented relationship. So interdependence, rather than absolute independence, is often presented as the stronger and safer long-term position.
Law 12. Use selective honesty and generosity to disarm your victim. This law suggests using honesty as a purely deceptive tool. How does that work? Is it a kind of Trojan horse strategy?
It absolutely is a Trojan horse tactic. Greene argues that just one sincere, open-hearted move can disarm even the most suspicious people, turns them into children, eagerly lapping up any kind of affectionate gesture. Francesco Giuseppe Borri, a 17th century charlatan, exemplifies this. He acted as a medico universale, gave free consultations, publicly distributed money to the poor. He led people to believe he had a philosopher's stone and genuinely wanted to help. Then, poof, he disappeared with their money and diamonds. His carefully timed, very public generosity was a powerful distraction, made it incredibly difficult for people to notice his true predatory intentions.
So it's about lowering their guard by appearing trustworthy, even noble.
Exactly. Count Victor Lustig, the master con artist again, he famously disarmed Al Capone. How? By returning a $50,000 investment untouched. He claimed his plan failed and apologized profusely. Capone, accustomed to deceit and betrayal, was so disarmed by this unexpected honesty that he later gave Lustig even more money for a subsequent con-up. This act of apparent sincerity works because who's going to distrust a person literally caught in the act of being honest or appearing to be? Duke Wu of Cheng in ancient China, wanting to invade the kingdom of Hu for first, he married his daughter to Hu's ruler. Then, to solidify his honesty and dedication to the alliance, he publicly executed a minister who dared to suggest invading Hu. The ruler of Hu completely dropped his guard, and Cheng swiftly conquered. The ancient Greeks offered the Trojan horse as a gift, right? Which did more for their cause than 10 years of fighting. It illustrates how a gift or an act of honesty can cunningly hide deeper deceit.
When does this strategy backfire, or what's the reversal here?
Right, the reversal notes that if you already have an established reputation for deceit, sudden, overt honesty will just appear suspicious. It'll call attention to itself. In such cases, it might be better to lean into your reputation and play the rogue. Count Lustig, when trying to sell the Eiffel Tower, sensed his mark's suspicion. Instead of feigning honesty, he casually explained his low salary and subtly asked for a bribe. The industrialist, thinking Lustig was just another corrupt official, actually relaxed and trusted him more. It confirmed his belief that all government officials were dishonest. So by acting dishonest, Lustig seemed the real McCoy. Similarly, Talleyrand, the master liar, preserved his ability to deceive by openly embracing his reputation for dishonesty, made it impossible to distinguish his real deceptions from his fake ones.
Law 13. When asking for help, appeal to people's self-interest, never to their mercy or gratitude. This is a powerful reminder that people are fundamentally motivated by what benefits them. Why do appeals to past favors or appeals to gratitude so often fail?
People, Greene states pretty bluntly, will find 1,000 ways to ignore past assistance or good deeds. Gratitude often feels like a burden, right? A debt they'd rather not repay or even acknowledge. The fable of the peasant and the apple tree illustrates this perfectly. He was ready to cut down the barren tree despite the sparrows and grasshoppers' pleas to remember its past shade. But he spared it only when he discovered a hive full of honey inside. His self-interest alone moved him. Stefano di Poggio, a conspirator against the powerful Lord Castruccio Castracani, naively appealed to Castruccio's mercy and justice, believing their cause was noble. Castruccio, who had absolutely no scruples about executing friends who became new enemies, had Poggio killed. It demonstrates that appeals to justice or morality often have dire consequences with those who understand only force and self-interest.
So it's about finding their honeycomb, finding their specific motivation and appealing directly to that.
Precisely. You have to uncover something in your request that will tangibly benefit them, and then emphasize it, maybe out of all proportion. Emperor Ieyasu of Japan, needing European know-how for guns and navigation, he swiftly evicted Portuguese missionaries who cared primarily about spreading religion because their interests didn't align with his. He preferred the Dutch, who wanted only to trade. That appealed directly to his self-interest by offering technological advantage. This is the language everyone truly understands. You must identify their core desires, whether it's valuable knowledge, financial gain, increased status, or even something as basic as making them live longer or happier. That is the language all speak and understand, far more than appeals to some vague sense of obligation or past favor.
Are there any exceptions to this rule? Times when appealing to mercy does work.
Well, the reversal points out that some people, often those already secure in their power and wealth, might actually prefer to exercise charity, mercy, and justice. But primarily because it allows them to feel and appear superior. It enhances their reputation for benevolence. They might be eager to fund your project or introduce you, provided it's done publicly and for a good cause, because it emphasizes their immense power and benevolent position. So, you have to distinguish between powerful people and what truly motivates them. Is it overt greed, the desire for strategic advantage, or this more subtle desire to display their good heart or power through acts of beneficence? Don't appeal to charity when they ooze greed, and don't appeal to greed when they genuinely want to look charitable. It's about reading your target accurately.
Law 14. Pose as a friend. Work as a spy. This is all about gathering intelligence. How do you do it discreetly, almost invisibly, without raising any suspicion?
Knowing everything about your rival or opponent is absolutely critical, Greene argues. And spying, however subtly, is the way to stay a step ahead in the power game. Joseph Duveen, the prominent art dealer, wanted industrialist Andrew Mellon as a client. Mellon was notoriously private, difficult. So Duveen secretly put Mellon's entire staff, valets, maids, everyone on his own payroll, to learn his habits, his tastes, his phobias, even the precise details of his art collection. He even booked the suite directly below Mellon's in a hotel and had his valet coordinate a chance meeting in the lift. Then he dazzled Mellon with his uncanny knowledge of art, making it seem they had incredibly similar tastes. Duveen's intimate knowledge, gained through extensive spying, meant he was never shooting blindfolded. His aim improved because he was armed with information others lacked.
So it's about gathering data, then acting on it as if by intuition or shared interest.
Yes, precisely. Talleyrand, France's foreign minister, was renowned as a superb conversationalist who actually said very little about himself. He organized these friendly social gatherings for foreign diplomats not to talk about his own ideas, but to subtly cajole confidences and gather invaluable information. He would often use made-up secrets or slightly controversial statements just to gauge reactions. In his words, he'd fire a pistol into the air to see who will jump out the window. It's about being incredibly observant, using every social occasion as an opportunity to probe, asking indirect questions to reveal weaknesses and tensions, all without raising the slightest suspicion that you're gathering intelligence. Never assume what others are thinking or planning. Find out directly, but discreetly.
Law 15. Crush your enemy. Totally. Wow. This one pulls absolutely no punches. Why is a partial victory considered so dangerous in the game of power?
Half measures are presented as extremely dangerous, yeah. If you leave an enemy alive, Greene argues, especially after humiliating them or inflicting significant damage, they just become more determined, more embittered. They're simply waiting for an opportune moment for revenge. Shang Yu, a powerful Chinese general, had his rival Liu Pang at his mercy, but hesitated to kill him. He even allowed him to escape from a banquet trap, believing it would be more noble to simply defeat him honorably. Liu Pang, upon escaping, showed absolutely no mercy whatsoever. He patiently regrouped, eventually crushed Shang Yu's army and forced him to commit suicide. Shang Yu's hesitation, his mercy, sealed his own doom. Liu, on the other hand, learned the lesson and would not suffer the same fate.
So no reconciliation is possible once you've truly started a conflict. It's win or lose completely.
The law governing fatal antagonisms, as stated in the source, is reconciliation is out of the question. Only one side can win, and it must win totally. Empress Wu of China, an ambitious woman with seemingly little chance to gain supreme power, she understood that any hesitation would be her end. She ruthlessly eliminated all rivals, including her niece and even her own sons, to secure her position. The more enemies she got rid of, the more ruthless she had to be to crush the next ones. She adhered to Sun Tzu's core strategic tenet, crush the enemy. If you leave vipers alive, the book warns, they will eventually rise to strike you when you least expect it.
Is there ever a time to show mercy, or is it always just a path to ruin?
Well, the reversal suggests that sometimes it might be better to let enemies destroy themselves, especially if they are cornered and desperate. A good general might strategically leave an escape route for a trapped army. Why? To allow them to wear themselves out in a demoralizing retreat, which can sometimes be more devastating psychologically than a direct defeat. This allows them to be the agents of their own destruction, and apparently you don't feel half as bad. But Greene strongly cautions that this tactic should only be used when you are absolutely certain they have no chance of recovery, no hidden resources. It's presented as a very rare exception to the general rule of total annihilation. It's about letting them burn their own bridges, but only when you're sure they can't rebuild them.
Law 16. Use absence to increase respect and honor. This law famously says, too much circulation makes the price go down. How does disappearing or making yourself scarce actually increase your value and respect?
A constant, ubiquitous presence inevitably degrades your value, doesn't it? Makes you a habit, something taken for granted. You become common. Greene references a Mullajami quote. Because the words, "Why have you not been to see me?" are sweeter to my ear than the words, "Why have you come again?" Makes sense, right? In love and seduction, if emotions are genuinely engaged, absence inflames and excites, especially if no clear reason is given because the lover or admirer often assumes fault or just yearns intensely for your return. Guillaume de Boulogne, a troubadour, famously feigned anger and left his lady. Her initial pursuit eventually faded. But when he unexpectedly returned, his perceived absence made her yearning even stronger, leading to this profound reconciliation and intensely intensified love. Absence made the heart grow fonder, literally.
So it strategically creates desire and respect, almost like an economic principle of scarcity.
Yes, absolutely. Napoleon observed, "If I am often seen at the theater, people will cease to notice me." In today's image-saturated world, chosen disappearance, like that of famously reclusive novelists J.D. Salinger or Thomas Pynchon, it generates this cult-like following, intensifies interest. This connects directly to the economic principle of scarcity. By strategically withdrawing something from the market, you instantly create value and demand. Joseph Devine, the art dealer again, would strategically buy up entire collections and store them away for years. Why? Simply to make certain paintings scarce, thereby raising their prices to fetish objects of desire. You must learn precisely when to retire from public view to regain lost respect, intensify desire, and retain power by making what you offer rare and hard to find.
When should you not use absence? It sounds like a powerful tool, but surely there's a risk maybe of being forgotten.
Yes, the reversal is critical here. This law applies only after a certain level of power, recognition, or established presence has been attained. If you leave too early, if you haven't built a significant presence, you're not missed. You're simply forgotten. Just a blip that vanished. When first entering the public eye or establishing your career, you need to create an omnipresent image, easily recognizable, reproducible. You must surround your audience with your image, ensuring that even in your eventual absence, they are always thinking of you, anticipating your return. Only what is truly seen, appreciated, and loved will be missed in its absence. Otherwise, absence will tragically extinguish any nascent interest before it has a chance to fully ignite.
Law 17. Keep others in suspended terror. Cultivate an air of unpredictability. Okay, most people are creatures of habit. Predictability gives them a sense of control, comfort. How do you turn that on its head to your advantage?
By being deliberately, consistently unpredictable. This keeps people constantly off balance. It forces them to wear themselves out trying to explain your moves. And yes, it can deeply intimidate them. Consider Bobby Fischer, the chess grandmaster, in his legendary match against Boris Spassky. Fischer deliberately made terrible moves, apparent blunders, forfeited the game, complained loudly about conditions actions that seemed entirely unhinged, right? It's completely unnerved Spassky, who was accustomed to reading Fischer's patterns, his logic. Fischer was strategically scrambling his old patterns, even if it meant losing early, just to keep the initiative and throw his opponent into utter confusion. Made Spassky start to blunder himself. It was controlled chaos.
So it's about creating chaos, but with a very clear strategic purpose behind it, not just being erratic.
Exactly. It's about unsettling, not just for terror, but also to stimulate intense interest and keep you relevant. Filippo Maria, the 15th century Duke of Milan, would suddenly shower a courtier with lavish attention and gifts, then inexplicably withdraw favor and ignore them, cause immense confusion, a frantic desire to understand his motives. Picasso used similar tactics with his art dealer Rosenberg, fluctuating wildly between extreme generosity and complete indifference to drive Rosenberg to offer higher and higher prices, work harder to please him. Unpredictability creates talk, speculation, and respect, because only the subordinate act predictably. Those in power deliberately unsettle to keep the initiative and maintain their mysterious aura.
What are the risks of using this strategy? Could you just appear erratic or unreliable instead of powerful and mysterious?
Yes. The reversal warns that too much unpredictability, especially if you're in a subordinate or unestablished position, can indeed be seen as crippling indecisiveness, or even a serious psychic problem. Makes you seem unstable rather than powerful. It should be used judiciously. Patterns are powerful, and disrupting them can terrify people, but you need to know precisely when to dial it back before it damages your reputation beyond repair. Greene suggests that this cyclone of unpredictable behavior should be deployed with extreme caution. It carries significant risks, if misused, potentially leading to isolation or just a reputation for being mad.
Law 18. Do not build fortresses to protect yourself. Isolation is dangerous. It seems entirely natural to want to protect yourself, to build walls, literally or figuratively. But this law strongly argues against isolation. Why is that?
The world is indeed dangerous, yes, and enemies are everywhere. But Greene argues that isolation actually exposes you to more dangers than it protects you from. It tragically cuts you off from vital information. It makes you conspicuous as a single, isolated target, and it makes you easier to attack without resistance or allies. The first emperor of China, Xu Huangdi, he built this elaborate palace with secret passages, slept in a different room each night, beheaded anyone who saw him. Extreme attempts at self-protection. Yet, he died alone, far from his court. His extreme efforts to protect himself ultimately made him more vulnerable, cut off from reality. Similarly, Prince Prospero in Poe's Masque of the Red Death isolated himself and his friends from the plague in a castellated abbey. But the Red Death still found its way in, proving the illusion of safety. So the fortress is just an illusion, a psychological trap in itself. Yes, exactly. Pontormo, a brilliant Renaissance painter, isolated himself for 11 years while painting a chapel. Developed a phobia of human contact, feared his ideas would be stolen. His work became disproportionate, a maddening mess. Ultimately his undoing. He lost all perspective, his work lost its overall composition, its human connection. This shows how isolation, while seemingly protective, can lead to strange, unbalanced ideas, mental deterioration, causes one to lose a vital sense of proportion in reality.
What's the more effective alternative to isolation then, according to this view?
Louis XIV, in stark contrast, built Versailles not as a fortress, but as a beehive, where everything revolved intimately around him. He lived surrounded by nobility, keeping them physically close, visible, interdependent, forcing them to compete for his attention. His constant presence among courtiers, demanding their attendance at elaborate rituals like the lever, his morning rising ceremony, it allowed him to see and be seen, cementing his power. Every room communicated with another, nothing passed unnoticed. The very crowd itself became a shield, protecting him from enemies and intrigue, because everyone was too busy watching everyone else.
Can isolation ever be useful, even temporarily?
The reversal suggests that, as a temporary recourse, yes, isolation can help you gain perspective, particularly for serious thought, intellectual work. Machiavelli famously did this when writing The Prince in Exile on a small farm. However, the reversal strongly cautions that prolonged isolation can breed strange ideas, makes it extremely difficult to break out of. You sink deep into its quicksand without noticing. It should be chosen only as a very last resort in small, measured doses, always keeping your way back into society open to prevent the kind of mental and social deterioration seen in Pontormo or Xi Huangdi.
Law 19. Know who you're dealing with. Do not offend the wrong person. This sounds like a critical guide to choosing your battles, and maybe more importantly, your enemies wisely. What are the particularly dangerous types of people to watch out for, the ones you absolutely should not offend?
Right. People react wildly differently to strategies, to insults, and some will seek revenge for life, making them incredibly dangerous. You must choose your victims and opponents with extreme care, as there are many different kinds of people who will react in varied, unpredictable ways. Greene identifies several particularly dangerous types, the revenge of the proud and arrogant, like Lope de Aguirre, who pursued an official for 3 years across vast distances just for a public flogging, finally stabbing him to death. They will not forget a perceived slight. Their ego is everything. The hopelessly insecure man. Less overtly violent, maybe, but harder to spot. Their ego is incredibly fragile. They'll attack in small, slow, but persistent bites, often behind your back. If you offend them, Greene advises disappearing for a very long time, or they will nibble you to death with passive aggression or rumor. Mr. Suspicion. This type sees the worst in everyone, constantly paranoid. Easy to deceive by playing on their suspicions, but incredibly dangerous if you become their target. They'll imagine everyone is after them and lash out indiscriminately. The serpent with a long memory. This person shows no anger on the surface, but inwardly calculates and waits. Waits for cold-blooded revenge, often for years. Like Norfleet, who spent years tracking down con artists who swindled him, driving one to suicide. They are cunning, patient, utterly unaffectionate, the plain, unassuming, and often unintelligent man. Surprisingly hard to deceive because they lack the imagination or intellectual vanity to fall for a complex ruse. They just waste your time and energy. Like Henry Ford, whom Joseph Duveen found impossible to entrap with his usual artistic schemes because Ford was simply too direct, lacked the vanity to be conned.
Wow, so it's about deep reconnaissance, looking far beyond the surface presentation.
Exactly. You must not rely on instinct or superficial appearances. Greene stresses nothing can substitute for gathering concrete knowledge. Study and spy on your opponent for as long as it takes to gain precise knowledge of their pride, their insecurity, their true character, including their ins and outs, their habits, their weaknesses. A blustery person may in fact be a coward. A kind show might cloak a serpent's cold heart. Never trust the version people present of themselves. It's utterly unreliable, often a carefully crafted facade. This law, the book states flatly, has no reversal. meaning it should always be obeyed to its fullest extent.
Law 20. Do not commit to anyone. This law fundamentally challenges the idea of unwavering loyalty. Why is it considered foolish in this framework to always rush to take sides or declare your allegiance?
By maintaining complete independence, you become the master of others. You make them pursue you. You can skillfully play them against one another. This law really has two crucial parts. First, do not commit to anyone, but be courted by all. If people feel they completely possess you, you lose your mysterious allure, your power. Queen Elizabeth I, the Virgin Queen, she famously kept numerous suitors, English noblemen, European princes perpetually hopeful, but never committed to marriage. This constant flirting and withdrawing made her the absolute center of attention, desire, worship. It allowed her to dominate the country and every man who sought to conquer her, protecting her power. She famously stated she preferred to be a beggar and single than a queen and married, valuing her independence above all else.
So it's about holding back, creating desire and competition among those who want your favor. What about in politics or business? How does it apply there?
It works in any competitive sphere, absolutely. Henry Kissinger, during the turbulent 1968 U.S. election, he offered aid and inside information to both Nixon and Humphrey, secured a high-level cabinet post regardless of who won. He thrived in turbulent times by maintaining a slight distance, never appearing too much of a Nixon man. Even famously survived Watergate relatively unscathed. Pablo Picasso, as the world's most successful artist, didn't commit to any one dealer, drove them wild with competition, significantly increasing his prices. Courting a rival like Kissinger did by opening relations with China to put pressure on the Soviets at the negotiating table also works to leverage your position. Aloofness makes people come to you. It becomes an irresistible challenge to win your affections and commitment.
And the second part of the law, what else does non-commitment involve?
The second part is to stay above the fray. Don't let people drag you into petty fights or taking sides in their quarrels. Appear interested, supportive perhaps, but remain strategically neutral. Isabella d'Este, ruler of Mantua, during the volatile Italian Renaissance, she skillfully navigated complex conflicts between powerful Italian city-states and foreign powers. She publicly befriended the French king while privately supplying him with information. Later charmed Cesare Borgia, even made him godfather to her child, all to ensure Mantua's continued independence. She also had her husband fight for the Pope, but ensured he wouldn't fight too hard while privately aiding her brother who sided with the French. She even had the French pretend to plunder Mantua to make the invasion plausible to the Pope, all to maintain her non-committal stance and avoid direct conflict.
Wow, so you can even stir up quarrels for your own benefit then without getting directly involved yourself?
Yes. The fox in the fable perfectly illustrates this, right? Benefiting from the quarrel between the kites and the crows over a wounded animal, eating the entire cheese while they fight. Castruccio Castracani, ruler of Lucca, had designs on Pistoia. Instead of a costly siege, he cunningly promised to help both rival factions, blacks and whites, against each other. Eventually took control of the city without a direct fight, without expending his own resources. By holding back, you gain time to position yourself, exploit the divisions of others. Talleyrand famously waited until the July Revolution in France was entirely over before committing to the winning side. He stated, "Not a word, I'll tell you who we are tomorrow." Commitment too quickly, Greene warns, loses maneuverability and often respect.
Are there any downsides to the strategy of non-commitment? Could it backfire?
Yes. The reversal notes that taking it too far can certainly backfire. Playing too many parties against each other can eventually lead to them ganging up on you out of shared frustration. Keeping suitors or partners waiting too long can inspire distrust rather than desire. People might start to lose interest or see you as unreliable, flaky. So sometimes you may need to commit to one side, even if only for appearance's sake, just to prove you are capable of attachment and avoid seeming completely self-serving or untrustworthy. It's a delicate balance between aloofness and engagement.
Law 21, play a sucker to catch a sucker, seem dumber than your mark. This sounds like a classic con artist's move, but it probably has broader applications. Why would appearing less intelligent or capable actually make you more powerful?
The feeling that someone else is more intelligent or capable than us, it's almost intolerable for most people. They'll go to great lengths to preserve their intellectual vanity. So if you can subliminally reassure people that they're smarter than you, or even that you are, a bit of a moron, their suspicion muscles will instinctively disarm. Arnold and Slack, two prospectors, pulled off this stupendous diamond mine hoax back in the day, Alpoca, by appearing as naive, unpolished rubes. They wore ill-fitting clothes, acted incredulous at city sights. The financiers they conned, including Rothschild, believed them precisely because they seemed so unsophisticated. They assumed such country simpletons couldn't possibly be pulling off an audacious scam. This, Greene asserts, was the deceiver's first commandment.
So it fundamentally leverages their own ego against them. That's almost universally applicable, isn't it? Maybe we've all fallen for a version of that, just on a smaller scale.
Exactly. It's about playing directly on their sense of intellectual superiority. And this tactic can extend beyond just intelligence. It applies to taste, sophistication, even social standing. By making others feel more refined, more experienced, or more sophisticated than you, their guard comes down. They become more open to manipulation because they simply don't see you as a threat or an equal. The longer you are around making people feel better about themselves, the more opportunities you inevitably create for deception. They'll keep you close precisely because you inflate their sense of self-worth.
Law 22. Use the surrender tactic. Transform weakness into power. This is particularly intriguing, using surrender not as a sign of defeat, but as a proactive tool of power. How does this work?
Well, when you are undeniably weaker, fighting just for honor's sake is almost always futile, self-destructive. Surrendering in this context gives you invaluable time to recover, time to subtly torment your conqueror with moral superiority or passive resistance, time to patiently wait for their power to wane or for events to turn in your favor. It denies them the ultimate satisfaction of completely defeating you, and it can profoundly infuriate and unsettle them. The Melians, in ancient Greece, famously refused to surrender to the Athenians. They appealed to honor, the will of the gods. The Athenians, being ruthlessly practical, annihilated them, sold their women and children into slavery. Their honor led directly to ruin. It proves that apparent weakness, though not a sin, can ironically become a strength if played correctly.
So it's about being strategically passive, biding your time while appearing to yield.
Inwardly, you stay firm, unyielding, but outwardly you bend, like an animal playing dead, appearing to comply. Bertolt Brecht, the playwright, faced the House Un-American Activities Committee during the McCarthy era. Unlike the Hollywood 19, who took a confrontational, defiant approach, Brecht was congenial, smoked cigars like the chairman, answered politely, brilliantly used an interpreter to subtly manipulate language and obscure his true political leanings. He completely baffled the committee, was released, and left the country. Maintained his integrity, his work, without being blacklisted. He outfoxed them by appearing to surrender to their authority, yet subtly mocking and evading them.
How else can this seemingly passive tactic be powerfully applied?
Hara Masayoshi, a Japanese minister in the 19th century, advocated outwardly conforming to foreign ways, making friendly alliances, trading, copying foreigners, not out of genuine submission, but to repair our own shortcomings and gradually subject them to influence, ultimately achieving hegemony through soft power. This soft, permeable form of invasion avoids triggering direct resistance and allows for infiltration. Even prisoners in a concentration camp, the source notes, found power by over-obeying their guards, making the guards appear ridiculous through their excessive compliance without providing a direct reason for punishment. So, when temporarily weakened, this tactic disguises ambition, teaches immense patience, and perfectly positions you for your oppressor's eventual slide. Makes you emerge victorious in the long run.
Law 23. Concentrate your forces. This law, though not explicitly titled in our source text, seems to be about the profound power of focus, of strategic allocation of resources. What does it mean to concentrate your forces?
It's about avoiding the fatal dissipation of your energies, your talents, across too many areas, too many pursuits, or too many alliances, spreading yourself too thin. The Rothschild banking family, despite very humble beginnings, became the most powerful financial force in European history. How? By concentrating their forces with singular focus, they established the fastest courier system, held a virtual monopoly on information crucial to finance, used a secret language to prevent infiltration. They even famously practiced internal marriages. 16 out of 18 family matches were between first cousins to preserve their internal cohesion, their wealth, their strategic focus through turbulent times. This fierce resistance to the era's general pattern of dispersion was absolutely key to their success.
So it's about extreme specialization and an intense inward focus, protecting the core.
Yes. The Rothschilds resisted the general pattern of dispersion of their era, stayed anchored in their culture, their familial bonds, their specific expertise in finance. This concentration was the foundation of their unprecedented power, wealth, and stability, allowed them to thrive amidst chaos, outmaneuver more scattered rivals. Greene uses the fable of the ghost who boasted of inhabiting 3 elements, land, air, water, but was mediocre in all, while the horse excelled brilliantly in just one. It's better to be admired in a concentrated, specialized field than to be a goose and all. Genius, as Goethe observed, often thinks it can do whatever it sees others doing, but it's frequently wrong. It's far more prudent to focus your efforts, not dissipate your powers across too many pursuits, no matter how tempting they seem.
And finally, Law 24. Play the perfect courtier. This law delves into the incredibly subtle nuances of operating successfully within any power structure, a court that still exists today, even without kings and queens. Whether it's corporations, political parties, social circles, what does it mean to be a perfect courtier?
It's about mastering what Greene calls the science of manipulating people, through indirection, grace, and sometimes veiled aggression. Courtiers must make the king, who might be a CEO, a political leader, even a dominant social figure, feel more kingly, more powerful, while simultaneously making everyone else fear their own subtle power and influence. They are magicians of appearance, knowing that most things are judged by how they seem, not by what they truly are. Greene outlines several key laws of court politics that are timeless, even in modern settings.
Let's hear some of these unwritten rules because they sound incredibly applicable today.
Okay. First, avoid ostentation. Never prattle on about yourself or call too much attention to your own actions. It can seem like you're covering up a deficiency or just trying too hard. Second, practice nonchalance. Your talent, your hard work, should appear to flow naturally, effortlessly, even if it requires immense effort behind the scenes. This makes you seem like a genius, not a mere workaholic. People prefer not to see the blood and toil. Third, be frugal with flattery. Too much loses value, stirs suspicion among peers. Flatter indirectly. Perhaps subtly downplay your own contribution to make your master look even better. Fourth, arrange to be noticed. While avoiding brazen display, you must ensure the ruler sees you, often through a distinctive, subtly unique physical appearance or style. Those noticed by the king are the ones who truly rise. And fifth, maybe most importantly, never be the bearer of bad news. Find others to deliver unfortunate tidings, even if you are the one who knows them first. Associate yourself only with the pleasant.
Can you give us some historical examples of how courtiers cleverly employed these tactics?
Sure. The Chinese courtiers, for instance, they couldn't directly criticize the emperor without risking their lives. So instead, they would subtly insert descriptions of unusual events, like two-headed sheep or geese flying backward into official chronicles. This implicitly warned the emperor that his actions were unbalancing the universe. A masterful, indirect criticism designed to be heeded without identifying the source. Jean-Baptiste Zabé, Napoleon's painter, managed to satisfy both the notoriously vain Talleyrand and the Duke of Wellington in one painting. How? By depicting Wellington grandly entering the room, making him the focus of all eyes, while placing Talleyrand in the very center of the composition, cleverly giving both men the spotlight they desired without overtly elevating one over the other.
And what about the dangers for the courtier, beyond just offending the master?
Right. Beau Brummel, the arbiter of fashion, made jokes about the Prince of Wales's weight, even calling him Big Ben to his face. This direct insult, despite Brummel's wit, led to his immediate banishment from court and eventual poverty. Lesson: never joke about a master's insecurities, ever. Another danger is overstepping your bounds. A seemingly well-meaning crown keeper was famously beheaded for simply placing a coat on his sleeping ruler. Why? That task belonged strictly to the coat keeper. His good intention of doing more was perceived as deeply suspicious, presumptuous. It seemed he was trying too hard, maybe even covering something up, an act of subversion.
So it's not just about managing the master, but also placating equals and subordinates? It sounds like a constant, completely exhaustive performance.
Correct. Courtiers must placate equals and subordinates because a court is described as a vast stew of resentments, fears, and powerful envy. J.M.W. Turner, the brilliant painter, famously dulled the colors in his own painting, hanging next to a rival's at an exhibition. Why? Simply to placate an envious rival, Lawrence. He understood it's better to temporarily dull your brilliance than suffer the slings and arrows of envy that could destroy your career. Winston Churchill, an amateur artist himself, even accepted criticism of his painting from American publisher Henry Luce, subtly correcting it to prove himself an obliging courtier, even to those arguably below him in stature, recognizing the value of mutual dependence and strategic humility.
And what about the line between the subtle manipulation and, well, outright deceit? Where does that fall?
Yes, it is a constant, exhaustive performance, but with a crucial warning. Talleyrand once played a series of elaborate practical jokes on Napoleon. Involved a boar hunt that was actually just 2 large pigs, a rabbit hunt that was dozens of purchased rabbits. While Napoleon's initial reaction was to appear good-humored, he later threatened Talleyrand and apparently never fully forgave him for making him look foolish. The lesson is that courtiers are like magicians. They play with appearances, illusions. But it is absolutely essential to keep people from seeing your tricks, from glimpsing your manipulation. Once the deception is revealed, especially to a master, it can have severe, irrevocable consequences. The magic is gone. Outro. So what stands out to you from these first 24 laws, especially seeing them in action through these anecdotes? For me, it's the sheer intricacy and often the uncomfortable honesty about human interaction when power is involved. These laws aren't presented as being inherently good or evil. They're about understanding the raw mechanics of influence, control, reputation. They really reveal how often our natural inclinations, like trusting friends, being overtly honest, or arguing to prove a point, can actually be significant pitfalls in this delicate, often hidden game.
And the core thread through so many of these laws, as we've seen, is indeed indirection, isn't it? Whether it's concealing intentions, making others come to you, or winning through actions rather than arguments. The subtle, unseen move often holds the greatest, most sustainable power. It's a game where appearance often trumps reality, and the most effective maneuvers are those that are least obvious. Making people bend to your will without ever realizing it. It really makes you rethink what transparent even means in today's world.
Absolutely. So, knowing these dynamics, how will you, listening now, begin to identify the velvet gloves and iron hands in your own professional and personal life? How might understanding these laws shift your perspective on what truly drives people's actions and the gap between what they say versus what they actually do?
Yeah, consider this. If the game of power is constant, and those who claim to be non-players are merely skilled at disguising their moves, what does that mean about the fundamental nature of relationships, negotiations, even the information we consume every single day? Are we unknowingly always a part of someone else's strategy? And how might that understanding change our own interactions going forward?
Indeed. The journey to being truly well-informed, perhaps, is about peeling back these layers, asking the right questions, even the uncomfortable ones. Trying to see the world not as you wish it were, but maybe as it truly is, in all its fascinating, complex, and often, yes, a moral reality.
Join us next time on The Deep Dive as we continue to explore the hidden mechanics that shape our world, dissecting more of these timeless and often controversial laws.
To The Deep Dive. There's a certain kind of person who seems to just effortlessly navigate the complexities of life, always landing on their feet, always knowing just what to do.
Yeah, you see that, while others, maybe despite their best efforts, kind of stumble.
Right. What if there were a profound wisdom, a kind of hidden playbook that could illuminate the mechanisms of influence and power, letting you see behind the curtain?
Indeed. We're talking about a timeless framework, really, a lens through which to understand the often subtle, sometimes provocative, and always insightful dynamics that shape human interaction.
It's about patterns.
Exactly. Recognizing universal patterns driven by, fundamental human nature.
And that's precisely our mission today. We're plunging into the fascinating world of Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power, specifically exploring laws 25 through 48.
And our sources for this deep dive are truly extraordinary. They draw from this rich tapestry of historical anecdotes. From the strategic brilliance of ancient Roman generals to the intricate court politics of 17th century France, from the wisdom of Chinese strategists to the audacious maneuvers of American presidents, and even the cunning of infamous con artists. It's quite a mix.
It really is. Our goal for you, our dedicated listener, is to distill the most potent nuggets of knowledge from these sources. We want to arm you with a unique lens to view power dynamics, helping you understand not just what these laws suggest, but more importantly, why they matter. Get ready for some surprising facts and plenty of aha moments that will make you feel truly well-informed.
Well, let's jump in.
So let's begin our deep dive. We kick off with Law 25. Recreate yourself. Forge an identity that commands attention. This isn't about minor tweaks. It's a pretty profound idea that you should never passively accept the roles society or, others try to impose upon you.
Yeah, it's active. You actively sculpt a new identity for yourself, one that's captivating, never dull, putting you in complete command of your own image.
It's like life is performance art.
Exactly. It's about understanding life as a performance. Giovanni Casanova, the renowned adventurer, he embodied this. He believed a successful individual had to be a chameleon, a Proteus.
Proteus, the shapeshifter from mythology.
The very one. Casanova meant someone adaptable, inscrutable, able to reflect the colors of any atmosphere. Now, this often requires a degree of conscious hypocrisy, not always revealing your true self, but rather presenting a carefully curated version.
And the philosopher Denis Diderot, he observed something similar, didn't he?
He did. He noted that a great actor excels in simulating, even if they feel nothing internally. Those who wear their hearts on their sleeves, despite their sincerity, are often considered tiresome and embarrassing.
They struggle to be taken seriously.
Right. Real power, according to this law, demands the plasticity of the actor to mold emotions at will. You control the narrative, not your raw feelings.
History gives us some really compelling examples of people who mastered this.
Oh, absolutely. Consider Julius Caesar, who was truly a grand showman. Early in his career as an aedile, that's an official in charge of public games in Rome,
Okay.
he made his mark by organizing these lavish, self-funded spectacles, wild beast hunts, gladiator shows. He shrewdly associated himself with these popular events, building a powerful foundation on his public image as this magnificent orchestrator.
And it wasn't just about the games, right? Think about his dramatic crossing of the Rubicon, that moment that literally signaled civil war.
Yeah.
He didn't just make the decision.
No, he staged it like a theatrical soliloquy. He debated both sides before his uncertain generals, then pointed to this seemingly innocent apparition, a tall soldier with a trumpet, and declared, "Let us accept this as a sign from the gods. The die is cast."
Wow. So his dramatic gestures just overwhelmed their doubt.
Completely. It transformed a practical, strategic choice into this legendary, almost divinely ordained act. The profound lesson here is that perception often outweighs reality. By framing his choice as destiny, he commanded attention and, crucially, loyalty.
And he kept it up. Maintained that image.
Consistently. He was perpetually aware of his public persona, from wearing spectacular purple robes to cleverly addressing his baldness with laurel wreaths. He always incorporated an element of surprise into his public appearances, proving himself a master of the vital link between power and theater.
He became both actor and director on the world stage. That's a great line.
Isn't it? And this principle of self-creation extends to the art of sprezzatura, that concept from the Italian Renaissance, meaning effortless mastery.
Yes. Sprezzatura, making hard things look easy.
Precisely. It's about making complex accomplishments appear easy and natural, concealing the immense labor and artifice behind them. Take Harry Houdini. His legendary escapes from impossible manacles or submerged glass cases appeared utterly effortless.
Like he was just playing around.
Exactly, as if he was simply toying with his audience. He'd even stretch out the time sometimes, just to heighten the drama, never showing a flicker of concern.
But the reality was totally different.
Oh, vastly different. Behind that smooth performance, Houdini spent weeks practicing, meticulously researching, even subtly manipulating rivals by changing handcuff codes he'd supposedly let them steal. His true genius wasn't magic, it was in the practice, work, and research, all meticulously concealed.
And the insight there is critical.
It is. Revealing your inner workings makes you just one more mortal. Mystery surrounds your actions, enhances your power, makes your gift seem exclusive. You want to cultivate awe, not, sympathy for your hard work.
As the source implies, there's really no reversal to this law.
Right. Bad theater is bad theater. Even appearing natural requires conscious art. It's a performance within a performance.
Okay, building on that idea of image, we move to Law 26. Keep your hands clean. Use others as scapegoats or cat's paws. So the core concept is maintaining this impeccable image of civility and efficiency by having others do the dirty, unpleasant, or maybe risky work for you. Strategic delegation, but with a bit of a twist.
It's a vital law because, as the source points out, mistakes are just inevitable for anyone in power. However, people of power are undone not by the mistakes they make, but by the way they deal with them.
So excuses don't cut it.
Not really. Excuses and apologies often just raise more doubts. It's far better to cut it off instantly and distract with a scapegoat before others have time to fully grasp your responsibility.
That sounds pretty ruthless.
It can be, but history offers some chilling examples. Consider Cesar Borgia's Romagna solution. He conquered the lawless Romagna region and appointed this cruel and vigorous subordinate named Ramiro de Orio with absolute powers to restore order.
Okay, so far so good.
But Cesar knew de Orio's brutal justice would make him enemies. Once order was established, Cesar publicly displayed de Orio's body on a pike, proclaiming that he had been responsible for all past cruelties.
Oh, so we set him up.
It was a calculated, almost theatrical move. The scapegoat was planned from the beginning, a kind of ritual that focused guilt outward, and allows Cesare to appear blameless, even benevolent, while reaping the benefits of the restored order.
The aha moment there is recognizing that it's not enough to be efficient. You must also appear just.
Precisely. Then there's the cat's paw strategy, drawn from the fable of the monkey using the cat's paw to retrieve chestnuts from the fire.
Right. Get what you want without getting burned yourself.
Exactly. Those in power must never dirty their hands with ugly tasks or appear in public with blood on their face. Yet, maintaining power often requires constant squashing of enemies, which means
Dirty little tasks.
dirty little tasks. Cleopatra was a masterful manipulator in this regard, to secure sole rule and eliminate her siblings, Ptolemy XIII and Arsinoe, without appearing as their murderer.
Which would look bad.
Very bad. She famously seduced Julius Caesar and later Mark Antony. She subtly convinced them to take actions that led to the deaths of her rivals. Caesar, for instance, was convinced to release Ptolemy, knowing Ptolemy would fight Arsinoe, allowing Caesar to defeat and kill both.
Clever. And Antony.
Later, Antony was convinced to execute Arsinoe. Caesar and Antony became her cat's paws, doing the ugly but necessary work while shielding her from blame. They were manipulated without realizing how.
The source emphasizes that cat's paws are often outsiders who enjoy doing favors.
Yeah, they might clear the field, spread information, undermine rivals, dirtying their hands while yours remain spotless. The real genius is to make the other person want to be your cat's paw.
But there's a warning here, a reversal.
A critical warning. Both the cat's paw and scapegoat strategies must be used with extreme caution and delicacy. If the screen is lifted and you're seen as the manipulator, blame will snowball.
Like with Catherine de' Medici.
Exactly. Her direct assassination plot against Gaspard de Coligny eventually led to the horrifying massacre of St. Bartholomew's Eve, exposing her true hand and turning popular opinion against her. Sometimes, if you're secure in your power, taking the blame yourself can be a powerful show of penitence, but only, sparingly.
That leads us perfectly into Law 27. Play on people's need to believe to create a cult-like following. This one is all about exploiting humanity's inherent need to believe in something, anything, especially during times of, say, societal transformation or crisis, by making yourself the object of worship.
It's a powerful blueprint for manipulation, really. The first step. Keep things vague and emphasize enthusiasm. Use resonant but cloudy words, fancy titles, new terms. Create an impression of specialized knowledge.
But don't get pinned down on specifics.
Crucially, avoid detailed explanations that would require you to deliver specific, measurable results. Instead, offer simple solutions to complex problems, playing on that deep-seated desire for mysterious panaceas.
And then you add the sizzle.
Exactly. Combat boredom and skepticism with dazzling effects, strange perfumes, electric lights, mirrors, captivating rituals. People are predisposed to marvel at mysteries. And a vital step. If you have no obvious enemy, invent one.
Create a straw man.
Right. An adversary against whom your followers can unite, tightening their cohesion around you and solidifying their loyalty to you.
So give us an example.
Consider Francesco Giuseppe Borri, the universal doctor of the 17th century. At 27, this Milanese man claimed Archangel Michael appeared to him, choosing him to lead a new army and granting him the power to see souls and find the Philosopher's Stone.
Quite a claim.
A huge claim. His sudden shift from a dissolute life to mysticism, combined with his boundless enthusiasm, drew an immediate following. Borri would perform these soul readings in a trance, hinting at his followers' spiritual greatness, and then demand strict vows of poverty and all their possessions.
Of course, and his wealth.
Attributed to the Philosopher's Stone, naturally. And when the church persecuted him, it only enhanced his reputation, making him seem like a martyred prophet, that classic only the great are persecuted narrative.
That what happened to him?
He eventually absconded with fortunes and, even when imprisoned, maintained wealthy believers until his death. It just illustrates how deeply people are dying to believe in something romantic, otherworldly.
The key to effective fantasy, then, is distance.
Yes, it must remain ungraspable, a mirage in the distance. Never let it become oppressively familiar. Joseph Weil, the yellow kid, that master con artist, he believed lies were allurement, more palatable than truth, and far more interesting and profitable to romance than to tell the truth.
The takeaway is that humans want to be deceived if the deception offers a more compelling reality.
It seems so, but there's a serious reversal here. The danger lies in that inherent gullibility. If followers eventually see through the illusion, a deceived individual can turn into an angry crowd.
So charlatans have to be ready to move on.
Absolutely. Constantly monitoring for sparks of doubt. The volatility of a crowd makes dealing with individuals in isolation often safer.
Okay, that brings us to Law 28. Interaction with boldness. Hesitation is fatal. This law is stark. If you are unsure of a course of action, don't attempt it. Timidity is dangerous. It's always better to enter with audacity.
Right. Mistakes made through boldness are often easily corrected with even more boldness. Everyone admires the bold. No one truly honors the timid.
And the psychological impact is huge.
Profound. Boldness projects confidence, which infects and puts others at ease. It suggests you're self-assured, unburdened by repression. It makes you seem larger than life, drawing attention and power.
Whereas timidity
Infects others with your own doubts, leading to mistrust and withdrawal of support. It causes you to fade into the background.
And in seduction, the source says hesitation is fatal.
Explicitly. It breaks the charm, makes the other person aware of your deliberate effort. Boldness directs attention outward, keeping the illusion alive. Casanova's boldness, for instance, lay in his ability to surrender himself completely, holding nothing back. His advances seemed like an irresistible force of nature.
We see this audacity play out dramatically with Ivan the Terrible.
Yes. As a young boy, he was bullied and abused by the powerful boyar families controlling the Russian court. But at 13, Ivan orchestrated this shocking transformation. He boldly murdered the boyar leader and ascended to the throne.
Just like that.
Just like that. This singular act of audacious violence instantly commanded authority and shifted the power dynamic irrevocably in his favor. It shows that sometimes a single bold stroke can instantly define you.
Even Napoleon, apparently awkward socially.
Yeah, he cultivated a persona of boldness on the battlefield. He recognized its tremendous power to literally enlarge a man in the eyes of his troops and opponents.
Yeah.
It wasn't just strategy. It was his unwavering decisiveness.
Is there a reversal for this one? Seems pretty absolute.
It's rare, but it exists in the form of feigned timidity. While real timidity is detrimental, it can be feigned as an offensive weapon. You can lure people in with your show of shyness, all the better to pounce on them boldly later, catching them completely off guard.
Interesting. Okay, from bold action, we transition to its necessary counterpart. Law 29. Plan all the way to the end. The ending is everything. This law is absolutely critical. Every action must be planned with the final outcome in mind.
Right. Anticipating all possible consequences, obstacles, twists of fortune to ensure not just success, but also that you claim the glory.
And the perils of being short-sighted are pretty stark.
They are. Look at Vasco Núñez de Balboa's doomed quest for El Dorado. He was driven, brave, ambitious, aimed to be the first European to see the Pacific, find the mythical land of gold. But he possessed courage, yet lacked foresight in political maneuvering. As an outlaw, he failed to secure crucial royal approval, constantly needed supplies and reinforcements, and was ultimately outmaneuvered by the jealous governor Pedrarius, who falsely accused him of treason.
So what happened? Tragic ending.
The tragic outcome. Balboa was executed, and his glory was later seized by others, like Pizarro. His story highlights how a lack of long-term vision can just undo all efforts, no matter how audacious or courageous the initial moves were.
It's a reminder that the path to success isn't just about starting strong, but finishing stronger.
Exactly. In contrast, Otto von Bismarck was a master of long-term strategy. His grand design unified Germany under Prussian dominance, specifically excluding Austria.
How did he do it?
He deliberately provoked wars with Denmark and Austria, winning decisively. But after the 7 Weeks' War with Austria, when his king wanted to march on Vienna and humiliate the Austrians, Bismarck stopped him.
He stopped him? Why?
He advocated for peace, a seemingly counterintuitive move, to secure a treaty that solidified Prussia's power without overextending or creating bitter, long-term enemies.
Smart. And then France.
3 years later, he provoked war with France, completing the unification. Then, after founding the German Empire, he unexpectedly ceased all wars and limited colonial expansion, focusing solely on security. People assumed he had mellowed.
But he hadn't.
But this was the final move of his original plan. Bismarck had a concrete goal from the start and knew precisely when to come off the attack, achieving lasting power by not overreaching.
The profound lesson is that success isn't just about gaining power, but knowing when and how to consolidate it.
Right. Most people, fueled by the intoxicating rush of victory, often hunger for more and go too far, creating reactions that lead to their eventual decline. Planning several steps ahead frees you from raw emotion and desperate improvisation.
It gives you clarity.
Provides the clarity to tolerate no deviation. It's like the gods on Mount Olympus who look down and see the ends of all things, laughing at human short-sightedness.
So no reversal on this one. Planning to the end is always better.
Pretty much. It's foundational to maintaining power and achieving lasting glory.
Now, on to Law 30. Make your accomplishments seem effortless. Conceal your toil. This is the ultimate display of power, isn't it? Making your achievements appear easy, natural, without any visible effort.
Yes, it cultivates awe and reinforces the perception of your unique genius. The aesthetic of grace is paramount here. Senno Rikyu, the legendary Japanese tea master, believed true beauty came from what appeared suddenly, almost accidentally graceful.
Art spoiled by seeing the effort.
Exactly. Art, when it revealed the labor behind it, was spoiled.
And we're back to Houdini again.
He's a prime example. His escapes, though demanding immense effort and ingenuity like that swallowed ivory ball concealing lockpicking tools,
Wow.
were performed with such calm and assurance that they seemed utterly effortless, as if he was simply toying with the audience. He'd even deliberately stretch out the time to heighten the drama, never showing a hint of concern.
Which brings us back to the crucial point.
Yeah.
Behind that smooth, natural performance.
Houdini spent weeks practicing, researching, manipulating. His genius lay in this meticulous, concealed practice, work, and research.
So why conceal the work?
Well, firstly, for awe and mystery. Humans are awed by forces that seem to require no thinking or planning, like nature itself. When you reveal the inner workings, you become just one more mortal. What's easily understandable is rarely awe-inspiring.
Makes sense. And secondly,
security. Revealing your shortcuts or tricks gives others ideas they can use against you. Maintaining mystery makes your power seem awesome, suggesting you possess an exclusive gift and untapped abilities.
And finally, to avoid looking vain.
Right. While it's tempting to seek applause or sympathy for your hard work, this often has the opposite effect, making your efforts seem less impressive. The goal is admiration, not pity.
So the law itself is the reversal of typical behavior.
Exactly. Showing effort is simply bad strategy, undermining the profound impact of your accomplishments.
All right, let's explore Law 31. Control the options. Get others to play with the cards you deal. The most effective deceptions, according to this law, involve giving people the illusion of free will.
The illusion.
While subtly limiting their choices, ensuring they pick the one that benefits you.
People paradoxically prefer limited options, Too much freedom creates a kind of anxiety. They find it hard to believe they're being manipulated when they feel they're making a choice.
Like the saying, if you can get the bird to walk into the cage on its own.
It will sing that much more prettily. It's about engineering consent.
Ivan the Terrible's abdication maneuver seems like a striking example here.
It really is. Struggling against rebellious boyars, those powerful noble families in Russia who limited his power, he abruptly abdicated and left Moscow, taking his court and treasures.
Which caused chaos.
Plunged the capital into terror. Muscovites feared abandonment and the chaos of the boyars. The people, desperate, begged him to return. Ivan agreed.
But only on his terms.
Exactly. Securing absolute power and the right to punish defectors. He deliberately created a power vacuum, giving people a terrifying choice between suffering without him or submitting to his dictated terms.
And they chose submission, thinking it was their idea.
Precisely. But their options were tightly controlled by Ivan's strategic withdrawal. The genius is turning a crisis into a negotiation where you hold all the leverage.
Another fascinating case is Ninon de Lenclos's revolutionary courtesan system.
Ninon. As a highly sought-after courtesan in 17th century Paris, she despised dependence on her lovers. So she created this unique system.
Tell us about it.
Only a select few, the favorites, had intimate access without payment. Others became payers, providing financial support, but no sex or martyrs who sought her company without payment, just hoping for future favor.
So her suitors chose their role.
They chose, which granted them a vestige of masculine pride, but all options ultimately served Ninon's desire for independence and control.
It's subtle manipulation.
Right.
Give people a sense of agency, but every path leads to your advantage.
And it works because people are often eager to rationalize their own choices, even if those choices were strategically presented to them.
Is there a reversal here, a downside?
There is. While generally effective, limiting others' options can sometimes inadvertently limit your own. Allowing rivals a large degree of freedom can create opportunities for you to spy, gather information, and plan your deceptions.
Like James Rothschild.
Right. The banker James Rothschild apparently preferred this, feeling that controlling opponents too tightly prevented him from observing their strategies. Sometimes it's better to keep people close to discreetly whittle away at their support base before cutting them loose.
Okay, shifting gears, we come to Law 32. Play to people's fantasies promise the moon. The core concept here is that people universally prefer fantasy over harsh reality.
So exploit this by offering alluring illusions, grand promises, the prospect of sudden magical transformations rather than, incremental improvements or difficult truths.
Because life is often hard.
Life is often harsh and humdrum, creating a deep universal yearning for escape and enchantment. Truth is cold, sober fact, not so comfortable to absorb. A lie is more palatable.
It's a fundamental psychological insight. People are often more willing to believe a beautiful lie than an uncomfortable truth.
Absolutely. Masters of illusion like Il Bragadino, the Venetian alchemist in the 16th century, truly understood this. Venice was in decline, yearning for past glory, and a prophecy foretold recovery through an alchemist.
So Bragadino arrives.
Right. Mysterious, funded by the Republic, living in sumptuous luxury, constantly clinking gold coins. He didn't actually practice alchemy himself, but his presence and the powerful rumors he cultivated created an alchemy fever throughout the city.
He became a source of pleasure for them.
Exactly. By tapping into their desperation and promising the moon, a great and sudden transformation from dust to gold. His power was purely in the illusion, the promise of something miraculous.
Like the forger Van Meegeren and his fake Vermeers.
Precisely. His fakes were believed genuine by experts and the public alike, precisely because the public and the experts as well so desperately wanted to believe they were. Desire can blind you to reality.
So the key to effective fantasy lies in distance, keeping it just out of reach.
Yes, it must remain somewhat unrealized and ungraspable, a mirage. Never let it become oppressively familiar, because directness or too much exposure can shatter the illusion. Keep descriptions vague enough to allow the victim to fill in the details with their own deepest desires.
The image for this law is the moon.
Unattainable, always changing shape, disappearing and reappearing, a continuous provoker of dreams. It represents the ultimate seductive fantasy.
But the reversal warns that fantasy is dangerous if you're expected to produce tangible results.
Definitely. Bragadino, for instance, when he moved to more sober-minded Munich, was hanged because he couldn't deliver on his promises and misjudged his host's forbearance.
The lesson.
Keep the performance light, and remember that the public half realizes it is being duped. They want to believe, but you mustn't push them too far past the point of plausible deniability.
Now for Law 33. Discover each man's thumbscrew. Find their hidden weakness. The core concept is simple yet profound. Every individual possesses a weakness.
Everyone has one.
An insecurity, an uncontrollable emotion, a secret pleasure that can be leveraged to gain influence and control over them.
And there are various methods of discovery. As Sigmund Freud astutely noted, no mortal can keep a secret. If his lips are silent, he chatters with his fingertips.
So you watch closely.
Pay close attention to seemingly unimportant gestures, passing words, subtle body language. Look for unconscious signals.
And look for unfulfilled needs.
Right. Did they lack parental support in childhood? Feel unappreciated? Subtly supply a facsimile of what they crave? If they reveal a secret taste or hidden indulgence, indulge it. They'll find it hard to resist.
And always look for contrasts.
Yes. An overt trait often conceals its opposite. Chest-thumping bravado might hide cowardice. A prudish exterior may mask a deeply lascivious soul. You must probe beyond appearances to find the real vulnerability.
Cardinal Richelieu seems like a master of this.
Absolutely. The chief minister to King Louis XIII of France, he recognized King Louis XIII's hidden desire to be a great, mighty king, despite his perceived childishness and indecisiveness.
So instead of protecting him.
Right. Unlike previous advisors, Richelieu deliberately pushed him into one ambitious project after another, making the king more dependent on him and establishing Richelieu's power for decades.
The key insight is fulfilling that hidden, unacknowledged desire creates profound loyalty.
Exactly. The image for this law is the thumbscrew. Once you find a groove of weakness on his head, at his heart, over his belly, you can put your thumb in it and turn him at will.
As Balthazar Gracian wrote, knowing any man's mainspring of motive, you have, as it were, the key to his will.
The power is in precise, targeted leverage. And there's no real reversal to this law. The principle of discovering weaknesses is fundamental to power dynamics. The danger lies not in the discovery itself, but in clumsy or inappropriate application, revealing your knowledge too soon or too obviously.
Okay, from understanding others, we move to presenting ourselves. Law 34. Be royal in your own fashion, act like a king to be treated like one. This law is about projecting unwavering confidence and aristocratic air, setting yourself apart.
Because people often treat you as you present yourself. The danger of losing dignity is clear. Consider Louis Philippe, the citizen king of France, chosen after the 1830 revolution.
He tried to be one of the people.
Exactly. He attempted to bridge the gap with the middle class by disliking ceremony, befriending bankers, walking the streets with a gray hat and umbrella, even discussing his humble childhood poverty.
What was the outcome?
This act of downplaying his status made him lose the mystery and aloofness necessary for a monarch. He seemed ordinary and an imposter, eventually caving to threats and being overthrown.
He failed to separate himself enough.
Right. Everyone sensed this and pounced. The profound lesson is that familiarity often breeds contempt, especially when it comes to positions of power.
In stark contrast, look at Christopher Columbus.
His unwavering demands, despite being a mere merchant with basically no qualifications for his proposed voyage, Columbus demanded exceptionally high hereditary titles, Grand Admiral, Viceroy, and percentages of future commerce from kings.
And he wouldn't back down.
He would not back down, even after multiple rejections. His quiet and calm self-assurance and the projection of confidence that was completely out of proportion to his means resonated with the nobility.
They recognized their own entitlement in him.
In a way, yes. He charmed them by acting as if he always deserved more. It's about setting your own price. Your self-worth determines how others value you. Ask for less, get less, demand more with quiet confidence, signals your worth, and garners respect.
So the key is you have to believe it yourself.
You must truly believe in your own greatness. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Act differently. Demonstrate your distance from the crowd with unwavering dignity, no matter the circumstance.
But there's a reversal here, right? Don't overdo it.
Crucial point. While radiating confidence is vital, don't take it too far by humiliating people or appearing arrogant and disdainful. Looming too high above the crowd makes you an easy target.
Like Charles I of England.
Exactly. By adopting an even more regal pose in the face of public discontent, he only intensified the revolts against him and ultimately lost his head. Always project confidence, never disdain.
Let's delve into Law 35. Master the art of timing, patience, and precision. The core concept is that time, while artificial, is a weapon in the realm of power.
Yes, you must control your emotional responses to events to manipulate time's perception, knowing when to wait patiently, when to force the pace, and when to strike decisively.
The source identifies 3 kinds of time.
It does. First, long time, which requires patience and defense. Think of Tokugawa Ieyasu, the great Japanese unifier.
What did he do?
He patiently stood aside while his predecessor, Hideyoshi, launched a rash invasion of Korea knowing it would fail. Ieyasu seized power when Hideyoshi's inevitable downfall came. It demonstrates the power of waiting for the opportune moment.
So patiently managing long time lets you see further.
Right. Resist baits, remain flexible, build a secure foundation for lasting power. Then there's forced time, short-term manipulation to upset an opponent's timing, used offensively.
And finally.
And time. The critical moment when a plan must be executed with speed and force, without hesitation, the decisive strike.
Joseph Fouché, the chameleon of the French Revolution, seems like the master of this.
An uncanny master of timing. His political survival came from his ability to sniff out the spirit of the times and align himself with the winning side. Started as a moderate, voted for Louis VI's execution when the crowd demanded it, later accepted a provincial post when tensions escalated in Paris, allowing him to lie low and avoid direct involvement in dangerous factional struggles.
Smart move. And during Napoleon's coup?
Fouché pretended to be asleep, offering indirect assistance, which secured his position as police minister. He later conspired against Napoleon when he sensed his decline. He always avoided being caught on a sinking ship.
He understood that power sticks to those who finish the revolution, not start it.
Exactly. He adapted, lay low, and struck fiercely at the right moment. The profound insight here is that emotional control is key to perceiving time accurately.
Because emotions speed up time.
Right. If the inner turmoil caused by our emotions tends to make time move faster, it follows that once we control our emotional responses to events, time will move much more slowly, allowing for greater clarity and strategic perception.
And the reversal is basically knowing when not to be patient.
Exactly. While patience is usually preferred, there are moments, those end-time moments, when swift action is absolutely essential. If your opponent moves quickly, you must accelerate your own pace.
Okay, next up, Law 36. Disdain things you cannot have, ignoring them, is the best revenge. The core concept, acknowledging a petty problem or an irritating enemy, only gives them existence, credibility.
So the most powerful response is to show utter contempt, as if they are entirely beneath your notice. The power of non-reaction is potent.
Like with Pancho Villa and General Pershing.
Perfect example. Villa, after his defeat, tried to regain relevance by attacking American citizens, hoping to provoke a response. General Pershing's year-long, failed pursuit of him in Mexico only made Pershing a laughingstock.
So by not reacting,
You prevent being dragged down in a futile engagement. You can choose not to notice the irritating offender, treating them as trivial and unworthy of your interest.
Henry VIII used this against Catherine of Aragon too.
Masterfully. He wanted the annulment, the Pope refused, Catherine resisted. Henry employed total disdain, stopped sleeping with her, insisted on calling her Princess Dowager, simply ignored the Pope's threats.
What could the Pope do?
Clement fumed. He had no power of recourse. Catherine, isolated from the court, ignored by the king, deteriorated and died. Ignoring people cancels them out, unsettling and infuriating them because they thrive on attention.
This offensive aspect of the law allows you to determine the conditions of the conflict.
Exactly. And it also applies to the sour grapes approach. If you desire something you cannot have, the most powerful tactic is to act as if you never truly wanted it.
Like George Sand and the Académie Française nomination.
Precisely. She swiftly acted as if it held no interest for her, neutralizing any perceived failure or ambition.
The image for this law is the tiny wound.
Right. The more you pick and complain about it, the worse it becomes. Leaving it alone allows it to heal naturally.
But there's a reversal. This isn't for major threats.
Correct. This law is primarily for niggling, petty annoyances. If an opponent is genuinely powerful and poses a real threat, ignoring them can be disastrous. In such cases, secret, decisive action, or a different, more direct strategy may be necessary.
Let's shift our focus to Law 37. Create compelling spectacles, dazzle and awe. The core concept is to strike awe and distract from unpleasant realities by creating grand, dazzling spectacles.
Leveraging the profound power of symbols and images, the primacy of sight is central here. The truth is generally seen, rarely heard. Visuals are just superior to words.
Why is that?
They impose themselves as a given, discouraging questions, creating forceful associations, communicating instantly, transcending social differences.
Symbolism and imagery are key then, like Diane de Poitiers.
A brilliant example. King Henry II's much older mistress, she cultivated enduring influence by masterfully intertwining her initials with his everywhere, wearing her signature black and white, and identifying herself with the Roman goddess Diana, goddess of chastity, the hunt.
Creating a divine aura.
Exactly, a cult of Diana around her, enhancing her respectability and making the king deeply devoted. She built an entire visual mythology around herself.
At Louis XIV, the Sun King.
His chosen symbol, the sun embodied majesty, power, a new order without needing lengthy explanation. Universally understood. Similarly, the con artist Yellow Kid of Weil used red ink for his red letter newsletter.
Why red?
To convey urgency, power, and good fortune, understanding that the I predominates over the word. The visual creates an immediate emotional connection.
Theatrical entertainment also plays a huge role. The Moon Doctor.
Hilarious example. A 17th century healer claimed to cure ailments with moonlight. His actual cure was a staged spectacle. Packed hall, cries of miracles, patients led to a window regardless of real moon visibility, ritualistic murmurs, fee collection.
So the idea of the moon was enough.
The mere thought, idea, and symbol of the moon were enough. The profound insight is that people love what is grand, spectacular, and larger than life because it appeals directly to their emotions and offers a powerful diversion from often mundane or painful realities.
But the reversal is crucial.
Very. While powerful, using images and symbols indiscriminately can backfire if they don't align with current ideals, appearing absurd or distasteful. The chosen visuals must be carefully crafted to resonate appropriately with your audience and context.
Our next law explores a delicate balance. Law 38. Think as you like, but behave like others, conform to avoid ostracism. The core concept. Maintain your inner thoughts, but outwardly conform to prevailing orthodoxies, conventional behavior.
Because standing out by overtly challenging the status quo is just inviting isolation and fierce opposition. The pitfalls of nonconformity are clear. Pausanias, the Spartan general.
What happened with him?
After military victories, he began dressing in Persian style, mimicking foreign customs in Sparta. This was perceived not as cultural appreciation, but as disdain and contempt for their own culture, a display of superiority. Led to suspicion, ultimately his downfall.
His actions were read as a challenge.
Even if harmless in intent, yes. Or Sir Walter Raleigh. His undisguised display of versatility and skills intended to impress instead made silent enemies among courtiers who felt inferior.
Envy, I guess.
Exactly. These rivals worked tirelessly to ruin him, and his eventual execution for treason was effectively masked by the deep-seated envy he had unwittingly cultivated. The lesson, even impressive qualities can invite destruction if flaunted without sensitivity.
So the art is strategic dissimulation.
Right. Tommaso Campanella, the philosopher facing execution for heresy, famously feigned madness to avoid his sentence. Later, he wrote Atheism Conquered, a book outwardly defending Catholicism but subtly insinuating his dangerous true beliefs.
Only for those who could read between the lines.
Exactly, allowing him to conform to the prevailing orthodoxy while expressing forbidden ideas safely. He understood survival sometimes requires a mask.
Like the Marranos of Spain.
A powerful example. Forced Jewish converts during the Inquisition outwardly adopted zealous Catholic practices, displaying crucifixes, donating to churches, even making anti-Semitic remarks, while secretly maintaining their Jewish faith. They mastered dissimulation to attain high office and retain inner freedom.
The profound aha moment. True freedom can sometimes be found within the confines of outward conformity.
It seems paradoxical, but yes. The fable of Kidri illustrates this beautifully. The only man who stored clean water before all other water turned people mad. He drank his own, tried to communicate, was seen as mad.
So he eventually drank the new water.
Yes, to avoid loneliness, illustrating the profound necessity of conforming to avoid social isolation.
What's the reversal here? Can you ever stand out?
It's tricky. The only time it's advisable is when you already possess an unshakable position of power and can display your difference as a sign of insurmountable status, like LBJ holding meetings on the toilet.
Right.
But even then, excessive nonconformity can lead to hatred and overthrow, like Emperor Caligula. It's almost always safer to at least affect the common touch.
Now let's explore Law 39. Stir up waters to catch fish. Provoke your enemies into rash action. The core concept. When opponents are calm, collected, potentially plotting.
Provoke them, get them emotional, make them act rashly, expose their weaknesses, make them loathe control.
But first, warning about your own anger.
Critical warning. Napoleon, when faced with a conspiracy by his two most important ministers, responded with public anger. This showed his frustration, indicated he had lost his power to shape events.
Losing your temper makes you look helpless.
Like a child throwing a hysterical fit. It only alienates people and gives enemies an advantage.
But strategic provocation is different. Hail Selassie.
Masterfully employed it against his powerful rival, Ras Gugsa. Knowing Gugsa was plotting, Selassie ordered him to lead an army against a tribe Gugsa had no quarrel with.
Offending his pride.
Effectively offending his manly pride, forcing him to fight for a man he hated. Enraged, Gugsa spread rumors against Selassie and marched his army towards the capital.
That's exactly what Selassie wanted.
But it was a carefully constructed trap. Selassie had already secured church support, bribed Gugsa's key allies to desert him. Airplanes dropped leaflets excommunicating Gugsa.
So Gugsa's army just collapsed.
Collapsed in battle and he was killed. Selassie successfully stirred the waters by playing on Gugsa's uncontrollable emotions, pride, vanity, forcing him to act before he was ready, stealing the initiative, catching him on a freshly baited hook.
The insight. An opponent acting out of emotion has lost control.
Exactly. The image is the pond of fish-clear, calm waters. Stir them up, fish emerge, get angry, bite the hook.
And the reversal. Don't provoke someone impossibly strong.
Absolutely. If your opponent is impossibly strong and untouchable, you have nothing to gain and everything to lose by provoking them. Never stir up the sharks. While a well-timed burst of anger can be effective, it must be manufactured and under your control and used rarely to maintain its intimidating power.
Let's turn our attention to Law 40. Despise the free lunch. The psychological cost of everything. The core concept. What seems free or cheap often comes with hidden psychological costs.
Obligations, compromises, quality issues, things that subtly erode your independence and power. value everything by its true cost, and pay the full price to remain free of entanglements.
Gonzalo Pizarro's El Dorado quest again highlights the traps of cheapness and greed.
Yes. Driven by a desire for shortcuts, quick gold, Pizarro tortured local Indians for information. This spectacularly backfired.
How so?
The Indians, fearing his wrath, deliberately made up stories, led him farther into deep jungle, rotting his supplies, wasting his efforts. His short-sighted greed cost him everything.
And the Duchess of Marlborough.
Her sadism. Despite the government funding Blenheim Palace, she obsessively counted every penny, torturing the architect Van Brugh over petty financial details, holding back wages, dismissing him.
What was the result?
Her sadism and consummate cheapness quadrupled construction time, poisoned relationships, alienated her from court, tarnished her legacy. She envied Van Brugh's creative power and used money to control and abuse him. Shows how pettiness can be enormously costly.
The profound insight. True value isn't just monetary. It includes goodwill, reputation, time.
Exactly. Conversely, strategic generosity is powerful. Baron James Rothschild, a German Jew in xenophobic French society, used his wealth not just to buy objects, but acceptance, influence. He wasted huge sums on lavish soirees, demonstrating his value for French culture over mere money. This symbolized his power beyond financial might, winning arts, securing social acceptance. He bought loyalty and respect.
Louis XIV also used strategic generosity
To control the nobility. He impoverished them by forcing lavish spending to maintain court positions, making them dependent on his royal largesse.
Then he'd ignore them.
Ignore a resistant courtier, create intense anxiety, then shower them with unexpected gifts posts, funds, paintings. Weeks later, ask for a favor, and the previously resistant noble would have lost the desire to fight.
The unexpected one-time gift is powerful.
It keeps them under your thumb. It loosens the soil before planting seeds of influence.
And con artists like Yellow Kid
Yeah.
will exploit this desire for a free lunch.
Absolutely. His swindles thrived on people's desire to get something for nothing, offered free real estate with hidden fees, fixed horse races, knowing greed is powerful enough to blind your victims to the deception.
In the reversal, sometimes you need to be miserly.
If others expect to exploit your generosity or see you as an easy mark, yes, it's sometimes necessary to be miserly or show you cannot be bought.
Next on our list is Law 41. Avoid stepping into a great man's shoes. Carve your own path. This is profoundly important. Following directly in the footsteps of a famous or powerful predecessor is inherently dangerous.
Because what came first always seems better. To truly achieve power, you must disparage the past, create your own unique identity, carve out a new kingdom.
Louis XV is the cautionary tale here.
He is. Inherited the Sun King's mighty realm, magnificent Versailles, but being pampered, having no need to fill a void, unlike his great-grandfather, who built his power from nothing, Louis XV succumbed to inertia.
So Versailles declined.
It became a pleasure palace of incomparable banality, hated by the peasantry. His reign tragically symbolized how the pampered, indulged son almost always squanders the inheritance. He never carved out his own legend.
Contrast that with Alexander the Great.
Exactly. Son of Philip of Macedon, a legendary general himself. Fathers often envy sons' youth, try to control them. But Alexander chose a different path. After Philip's death, Alexander aimed to surpass him by conquering Persia, a dream Philip pursued but failed to achieve.
And the Gordian knot.
His symbolic act of cutting it with his sword, instead of laboriously untying it, powerfully demonstrated that he would not do as others but would blaze his own path.
He knew privileges of birth were impediments.
Instinctively recognized it. He chose to begin psychologically from ground zero, being merciless with the past, and his father's achievements to create his own unique, unparalleled legacy.
The profound insight. True power isn't inherited. It's forged in your own challenges and triumphs.
Precisely. This law also ties into the power of isolation in politics. Pope Boniface VIII shrewdly lured Dante, a leading Florentine figure, to Rome, then had him exiled.
But without his backbone, Florence crumbled.
The insight is chilling. One resolute person, one disobedient spirit can turn a flock of sheep into a den of lions. Isolation, by separating individuals from their power base, spells death in the game of power, removing the keystone.
What's the reversal on this one?
While isolating enemies is powerful, you must ensure they lack the means for revenge. Andrew Johnson's attempt to isolate Ulysses S. Grant only enraged the general, leading him to form a powerful support base and become president.
So sometimes it's safer to keep threats close.
Monitor them, secretly erode their support, rather than pushing them into open rebellion.
Let's consider Law 43. Work on the hearts and minds of others, seduce. Don't coerce. Core concept. Direct coercion creates resistance, resentment.
True. Lasting power lies in seducing others, working on their individual psychologies, emotions, making them want to move in your desired direction.
The failures of insensitivity are stark. Marie Antoinette.
Pampered, flattered from a young age, never learned to charm, persuade, attune herself to other psychologies. She bulldozed over people with self-righteous arrogance.
And the result?
Became the focal point of French dissatisfaction. When the revolution came, hardly a soul came to her defense, not even her own family. Led to her execution. It's infuriating to meet with a person who makes no effort to seduce you or attempt to persuade you.
Her type, believing attention is owed them, is more common than ever.
Tragically, yes. In powerful contrast, Zhuge Liang, the brilliant Chinese strategist, mastered winning loyalty through seduction. Trying to unify China, he knew crushing the barbarian King Mengwo by force would breed lasting enmity.
So what did he do?
Liang captured Mengwo and his army 7 times. Each time, treated captured soldiers with respect, food, wine, released them. Repeatedly released Mengwo, even gave him a horse.
7 times. What happened?
Mengwo's troops grew disillusioned by Liang's consistent mercy. After the 7th capture, Mengwo finally broke down, crawled to Liang, declared, "Yours is the majesty of heaven. We men of the South will never again offer resistance."
Liang's goal was to win his heart.
Exactly. Force strengthened resistance. Mercy and respect created psychological pressure, leading to willing, deep-seated submission. Lasting power is built on consent, not just conquest.
This applies to mass movements, too. Mao.
Yes. Mao used populist appeals, speaking in simplest terms, using visceral metaphors to appeal to the public's deepest anxieties and primary emotions, love, hate, jealousy captivating their hearts. He understood all of us share the desire for attachment and belonging.
The quickest way to secure minds is showing how an action benefits them.
Self-interest is the strongest motive of all, and ideas are best communicated through metaphors, imagery. Why kings kept writers, intellectuals, to appeal concretely to minds and emotions.
The image is the keyhole.
People build walls, but there are doors to the heart and mind with tiny keyholes. Find the key to gain access to their will without ugly signs of forced entry.
And the reversal. Sometimes force is needed.
While persuasion is generally superior, direct coercion or violence is necessary in extreme, time-sensitive situations. But recognize it creates long-term resistance, resentment, a tactic used with extreme caution only as a last resort.
Okay, let's move on to Law 44. Disarm and infuriate with the mirror effect. Reflect their reality. Core concept. Confuse, mock, ultimately disarm opponents by mirroring their actions, values, psyche.
Which can infuriate them or subtly seduce them into believing you share their deepest desires. Looking into a physical mirror can be disturbing, making us see ourselves as an object. Symbolically mirroring others recreates this unsettling effect, allowing manipulation.
4 main mirror effects.
Yes. First, the neutralizing effect, or warrior's mirror. Like Perseus using his shield to reflect Medusa's gaze, you reflect an enemy's actions back at them to disorient, neutralize them, especially when you have no specific counter strategy.
Okay.
Second,
The Narcissus effect. The seducer's or courtier's mirror. Mimic another person's values, tastes, spirit, creating a perfect reflection of their psyche. They fall in love with themselves or their ideal image reflected in you.
like Olympe Mancini charming Louis XIV.
Exactly. Perfectly mirroring his tastes, gestures, interests, making him fall deeply in love because she reflected his own idealized self back to him.
Third is the moral effect.
Teaching others a lesson by giving them a taste of their own medicine, mirroring their unpleasant behavior. The fable of the merchant teaching his cheating friend a lesson illustrates this. Mirror the absurd lie, rats eating iron, with an equally absurd one, owl carrying off his child, forcing confession, works better than complaining.
And fourth, the hallucinatory mirror, creating a perfect illusion of reality so convincing people mistake it for truth. Yellow Kid, while replicating an entire bank furniture, staff, simulated transactions, fooling a wealthy sucker into depositing a large sum into a fake institution.
Because people have an intense desire and need to believe.
And are susceptible to a well-constructed facade, but the reversal warns the mirror effect must be subtle. If too obvious or overused, it leads to resentment, backfires disastrously. Make them feel they're seeing themselves, not that you are mocking them.
Our penultimate law explores the delicate dance of change. Law 45. Preach the need for change, but never reform too much at once, cloak the new in the old. While change is often necessary, people inherently cling to the past, are disturbed by radical shifts.
So to implement reform successfully, preach its necessity, but always cloak it in the comforting appearance of tradition and older values. Human psychology fundamentally resists sudden, radical change.
People want novelty, but not disruption.
Right. Abstract change relieves boredom, but a change that upsets core habits and routines is deeply disturbing. Revolutions, though exciting, create a void that's unsettling, leading to a yearning for the past.
Thomas Cromwell's Protestant Revolution is the cautionary tale.
It is. As Henry VIII's chief minister, Cromwell envisioned a rapid, merciless Protestant transformation, smashed church power, seized wealth, quickly dissolved monasteries, imposed reforms.
Flathead.
His speedy reforms caused immense pain and resentment, leading to powerful revolts. Even Henry VIII, who hadn't wanted to go so far, saw the destructive costs, eventually executed Cromwell. His actions were like a billiard ball hit too hard against the cushion, creating reactions he couldn't control.
So gradual, cloaked transformation is better.
Far more effective. Look at the Christianization of Christmas. The church co-opted the pagan date of December 25th, already associated with winter solstice festivals like Saturnalia for Jesus' birthday.
Giving the new holiday the comfort of the old?
Exactly, making it more palatable, easily adopted, leveraging existing comfort.
Mao Zedong faced similar challenges in China.
Profound attachment to the past, strong Confucian ties. Instead of directly fighting tradition, he turned it to his advantage. Associated his revolutionary army with romantic figures from the novel The Water Margin, a Chinese Robin Hood band framing their struggle as a timeless conflict.
And later,
During power struggles, cast rivals as symbols of Confucian conservatism, himself as representing the legalist school, an ancient philosophy favoring strict laws, violence for a new order, cloaking modern political struggles in ancient philosophical terms.
he knew radical change needed comfortable clothes of the past.
Understood that the past is a text in which you can safely insert your own lines.
And the reversal. Sometimes rapid change is needed.
If society is genuinely clamoring for it, yes, holding back too much can be a mistake. But even then, building on the past, managing appearances remains crucial for long-term stability and ensuring reforms stick.
Our very last law for this deep dive is Law 46. Never appear too perfect, display harmless flaws. Core concept: appearing flawless is profoundly dangerous, breeding silent, corrosive envy.
So it's wiser to occasionally display minor defects or admit to harmless vices to seem more human, approachable, and cunningly deflect that potent envy. Only gods and the dead can seem perfect with impunity.
The destructive power of envy is immense. Joe Orton.
Tragic story. Playwright Joe Orton's rising success caused his lover, Kenneth Halliwell, to deteriorate from intense envy, culminating in Halliwell brutally murdering Orton, then committing suicide.
Because envy is the hardest emotion to control.
Leads to silent, insidious destruction. The envious cannot bear the superiority of others, will connive to prevent it, or cast obscurity, hypercriticism, sarcasm, and calumny. A silent assassin.
So Walter Raleigh again. His skills made enemies.
His undisguised versatility intended to impress, instead made silent enemies among courtiers feeling inferior. They worked behind the scenes to ruin him. His execution masked by the envy he unwittingly cultivated. Even brilliance can be your undoing if it provokes too much jealousy.
So how do you deflect envy? Humble appearances.
One key strategy. Cosimo de' Medici, after returning to immense power in Florence, consciously avoided flaunting wealth or ambition, dressed simply, avoided self-glorification, engaged in generous patronage, subtly influencing Florence without appearing overtly powerful.
The source says he was never envied.
He blended power with humility. You can also deliberately display harmless defects or admit minor vices. Makes you relatable, less threatening, diverts envy.
Or give credit to luck.
Or others. Subtly emphasize good fortune over pure merit. Makes your success seem more attainable, reduces the sting of envy.
Be especially careful after a sudden success or promotion.
Prime trigger for envy among former peers. Be profoundly mindful of that moment.
And the reversal, if envy is already there.
Once it's truly taken root, particularly if you have unimpeachable power, sometimes the best revenge is display the utmost disdain for those who envy you. Make your perfection obvious. Let your good fortune and power become their living hell.
Like Michelangelo tormenting Bramante with the Sistine Chapel.
Making it his most perfect work. A high-risk play, though.
And finally, our very last law for this deep dive, Law 48. Assume formlessness, be as fluid as water. Rigidity, predictable plans make you an easy target.
To be truly powerful, remain adaptable, elusive, constantly moving, assuming a fluid, formless presence your enemies cannot grasp or attack.
The danger of fixed form is shown by the Spartans.
Their ultimate failure to adapt forged the most powerful infantry with rigid formations, unwavering bravery, success for 300 years, but their single-minded focus on defense, lack of adaptability to a changing world.
Unlike the Athenians.
Right. Made them unwieldy, led to downfall when they tried holding an empire. Like an animal that develops a shell, gains safety but sacrificed vital mobility. Almost always the experiment of armor failed.
And powerful individuals can become rigid too.
Become conservative and possessive in power, identity set, habits congeal, become easy targets because everyone knows their next move. Look comical, like overripe fruit, ripe for picking.
But the power of fluidity is formidable. Mao's jigsaw pattern warfare.
Brilliant example after WWWI against the nationalists. Nationalists, superior forces, aimed to crush Mao's communists by concentrating on key cities. But Mao's forces dispersed in a jigsaw pattern, elusive, formless.
So when nationalists took cities,
Mao's forces surrounded them, broke them into isolated units, cut supply lines. His strategy mirrored the game of Go, Weiqi, nonlinear and fluid, emphasizing mobility, encirclement over direct confrontation, fixed positions like chess.
This apparent formlessness disoriented them.
Terrified them, left them with nothing solid to attack, wasted energy pursuing or assumed incompetence. The profound insight, true strength, can lie in never providing a solid target.
Like T. Lawrence in the desert.
During WWI, taught Arab forces fighting the Turks to blend into the vast desert, never providing a direct target. This war of detachment exhausted the Turks. Superior firepower, but no one to hit. Lawrence wrote, "We were to contain the enemy by the silent threat of a vast unknown desert, not disclosing ourselves till we attacked."
And the reversal. Formlessness isn't just weakness.
Crucial point. It shouldn't mean forsaking concentration of power when needed. Formlessness scatters enemies, but when you finally engage, hit them with a powerful, concentrated blow, like Mao overwhelming isolated nationalist units. Maintain your long-term strategy even when appearing formless.
And there you have it. Wow. We've journeyed through this intricate dance of power, from the radical act of self-reinvention all the way to the strategic mastery of timing, illusion, and formlessness.
Yeah, these laws really reveal how understanding human nature, its weaknesses, its desires, its inherent resistance to overt control is the ultimate currency of influence.
And the profound lessons from these laws, they aren't just for historical figures or grand strategists, are they?
Not at all. They're about recognizing the subtle dynamics at play in every interaction, negotiation, every decision you make. They invite you to observe, adapt, and maybe act with a newfound clarity.
Whether you choose to apply these lessons directly or simply use them to better understand the powerful forces at work around you.
Exactly. It's about becoming more aware.
So as you reflect on these deep dives, what surprising nuggets of knowledge stood out to you the most? How might embracing the idea of dynamic self-creation and strategic fluidity allow you to better shape your own path and relationships without succumbing to the common pitfalls of power? Remember, the world is always shifting.
Constantly.
And the power to adapt and recreate oneself might just be the most valuable skill of all.